about issues of women gender, and at the same time when you are talking about parents or childhood relations, some such topics can also be seen in a gender perspective. And if you are not focusing, you can, or in a marginalized perspective. It is whenever you are here, you have to introduce.
Local urban governance.
Okay. Okay. So that is a huge issue. Like some of you here also mentioned local governance. So how there are a number of states, more than 20 plus, which have already implemented 50% reservation for women, but still the active participation of women is in question. I don't simply say that it is not. They are definitely contributing, and there are models, and they have been independent, and they made a mark, but still there are still huge percentage of women who have got elected by the people are not able to deliver their democratic duties because of the pressure of the patriarchy on the one hand and the feudal system still on the other, and of course their own docility or withdrawal, etc. Okay, so in this way we are going to see today the how to build gender perspectives in social science research. We are all from social sciences, and I could see almost all, mostly political science and social work gets repeated, but and public administration, because this has been connected here. But at the same time, I could see from other disciplines also at least one or two representation from different disciplines of social sciences. So in that, yeah, you will elaborate? Okay. Next slide. So, oh, someone should come. Otherwise, is it okay for you? Okay. I think this will. Okay, when we talk, of course, you have been attending for the past few days, so you have already got introduced what is methodology, but still, just a recap, methodology is a theory analysis and how to analysis of how research should be conducted. So it is, you have to on the one hand focus on research and also analysis. So you are thinking of, you are all in the, some of you are in the beginning stage. So when you are choosing the topic itself, you will be thinking of the theoretical framework. What is the framework on which I am going to define my topic, and what would be the kind of data I will be collecting and then analyzing. So this is all which actually constitute seeing the perspective of both theory and practice, and that constitute, and you will decide what kind of methodology should be used and what data, what nature of data to be collected, and how those data collected would be analyzed, etc. So methodologies are not only, which should not be confused with epistemology. Epistemology is a theory of knowledge. So far, many researches have been conducted and they have contributed to theory building or contributed to formulate theories. And therefore, that there will be different theories. We cannot say that even if we take economic theories, there are a number of theories. Similarly, you have psychology or political science or gender theories. The theories in the school of thought, the feminist school of thought, you have those who are studying women's studies must be understood that there are schools, different schools like liberal feminism, you have social feminism, Marxist feminism, radical feminism, etc. So the entire focus is towards equality, that there shouldn't be any difference based on gender, be it women or men or the entire LGBT spectrum, or the other marginalized communities, because it is not that there is differences in the society among gender alone, it is also prevailing among the communities. That is what we call multiple inequalities. So it is equally to be recognized that when, if in terms of gender, if you take then you know which is the dominant group, which is the subordinate, which is being subordinated or kept in submission, submissiveness. And now we are talking about not the binary anymore. It is not gender, men and women, but we move to the entire gender spectrum of LGBTQIA plus. And further to that, we include in this gender discussions marginalized communities also. So all the researchers now in the current context are mostly focusing on, when you are talking about gender, it does include the marginalized communities also. So accordingly, the theories will vary. A theory, for example, in the feminist thought, we had the broad categories of feminism, and Indian feminism or Indian women's movements also. Earlier they started with middle class, their kind of focus were different. But when you, if you have the chance to read, go through the first Towards Equality report 1974, we just had, I don't know any of you came there to Trichy, I think Delhi, Dr. Muthulakshmi's student participated there. And so we had 3-day international conference on Towards Equality, 50 years of Towards Equality, because this year is 50 years. And it is kind of reflecting on the past and looking for the future. So what had happened for the 50 years? What were all pointed there in the report? Are we able to achieve, and still are there still gaps, etc., etc. And definitely there are some of issues. Of course, the report was calling for, I think I should say from the gender perspective, the first kind of its report of its kind, in the sense it took different methodologies. It is a methodological innovation. Before that, we didn't have such comprehensive report at all. But in this report, the committee advocated, there is a committee on status of women in India, and three of the founder directors of Center for Women's Development Studies were part of the report. And therefore, that was all the more required for us to hold this 50 years of conference, Towards Equality conference. So it was mentioning that there were lack of database on women and gender disaggregated. Way back in 50 years, before 50 years itself, it was underlined that there is a lack of gender database, and also gender disaggregated data. And whatever data it was pooled, like for example GDP, in economics we call gross domestic product or national income, whatever. So it is only giving the pool. We don't have the disaggregated data as to how much was contributed by women and men or other gender, and how much is from the marginalized communities. We only have the pool. So only when you have the disaggregation, you will appreciate, okay, population 50%, they constitute 50%, almost I'm saying. But their contribution is only 20%. Why? Are we really analyzing why there is a huge gap of 30%, or in terms of taking their own contributions, so only 80% of the people are not contributing, because work participation rate of women is very, very minimum in India. And it is, global average is also very less. I don't say that all the women equally contribute or participate in economic participation. And it is worst in India. And when you take the entire data for the 3 decades since neoliberal policies have been implemented, 1991 onwards, you will definitely see that there has been a decline in work participation. I may be able to show some figures later. So the curve was like this, growing down and then picking up, and then now it is going. I think if you read the latest 23-24 periodic labor force survey data, it is, you have the rural-urban classification also. In rural it is more. In rural the women's economic participation is more. It touched, last year it was 37, now it is 41% put together. So this raises a lot of questions. People are analyzing, people who are working on the economic participation of women, they are analyzing as to why suddenly from 23, 26, 27, right, still in post-COVID, slight improvement. During COVID it was 19%. Only 19 out of 100 women were able to participate in labor market, in paid labor. I don't say that women are not in work, they are in work, but unpaid work, that is not measured. So these are the various topics which we will, I don't only concentrate on that, but I would like to say that the theories will accordingly vary, because I have been talking about diversity. It is not single monolithic among women itself, or among men itself, or among the transgender and other. It is all diverse. So it may be regional diversity, it may be gender diversity, it may be language diversity, and now it is all very much in discussion how language matters, and also the other kind of class, that is what we call intersectionality. I think Professor Kishore already touched upon that, but I'll also be using that, because that is one of the important components here in this discussion on gender. Crenshaw invented that term. The other day we had this conference where Ruth Manorma, who all know that she is a Dalita activist and she is in Karnataka, She came and delivered a lecture, and she was telling, I was also there. She said, I'm quoting her, that she was also there, and Crenshaw was also there, and Crenshaw was much appreciated. She was also talking the same school of thought, and it was labeled as intersectionality. Dalit issue also, it is different from, like, that is one of the kind of a breakthrough, because that's what I wanted to say, that Indian feminist thought was very much lying on monolithic, considering every woman, or even taking middle class women. They least consider the marginalized women. So people like Ruth Manorama and others, they came together and they started working on Dalits, and they started critiquing the mainstream feminist thought, saying that the issues that the mainstream women face are different from Dalit women face. So this is the only argument. With same theory can be juxtaposed to other contexts also. The only thing that whatever the kind of issues or prospects or whatever, you cannot understand the experience of Dalit women or any marginalized further, tribal women also. You can't bring the general context to these women, to fix to these women also. There are the entire issue will be different on the one hand, and experiences also. Whereas as a middle class woman or an upper caste woman or upper class woman, I face a different issue. I don't mean I am referring to a woman. But the same kind of issue will have a different face and experience to a woman who is drawn from a marginalized communities. So that is what I want to underline. The theory is very. The feminist epistemologies acknowledge the following facts. One is that traditional epistemologies, this is the very starting point for the feminist research or gender research methodology. Traditional epistemologies ignore women's knowledge. Whether you go back to some 50 years back, any written document you see, it will be very mainstream in its perspective. Even now, I have been seeing statues in the judiciary or even in the university. You just go to Mizoram University, read the statues. The language is only he. There is no she. Now it is he, she, they, them. We are using, even moved to that stage. But in those documents, that's what I want to say, ignore women's knowledge. This is the moment you center around the dominant force. I also here cautiously use he also. I am not using the he, the entire, including the marginalized community, or in this particular knowledge was not using, the traditional knowledge was not using the men also from the dominant communities or dominant order, whatever. They only will decide what are the rules and principles to be followed by the other communities. They were holding the entire resource, and they will only distribute the opportunities to everyone, whether it is, because that the system was zamindari system, land ownership, feudal, and they will control everyone, they will enslave, they used to, no. So in that, we didn't as marginalized communities, we didn't have any say over the policies at all, whatever the principles, etc. And we did face a lot of atrocities, and they still uphold and appreciate, oh, those were the values of the society. Where I can state from South Tamil Nadu, that there were upper caste communities and lower caste. Sorry to say, no, in the hierarchy I am mentioning. And the woman who is married, who is going to get married next day, she will have to sleep with the upper caste men. Then only it will be sanctified. That is what it was. It is still in paper. That is a kind of a hierarchy, and how cheap you made the women on the one hand and also the marginalized communities on the other. And the man who is going to get married also should go and be with her sometime when is she coming out of that. So this was the kind of, and in Kerala they during the British they imposed breast tax. You would have read. And when Nanchali, she had to cut her breast and offered that as a tax, and lost her life there in the. So these were the kind of, and you are not supposed to wear the upper garments. These were the kind of oppression that the particular communities, particularly marginalized communities, faced, and we have gone along way and overcame, but still the roots of it is still there. That is the point I am trying to make. So unless otherwise you understand the historical context in which these kind of issues prevailed and now how it is emerging or resisting to change, all these things should be taken in that perspective. So the traditional epistemologies ignore women's knowledge. Women were not at all taken as a part of the development process. They were just passively there, and they are supposed to sit at home and deliver all the duties defined to be or expected to be delivered by women. And the voice of science is masculine one. So also I was telling that everything was decided by the dominant force, either in terms of the dominant caste and community, and in that also even among the the so-called dominant community, the women will be facing the same suppression, maybe economically sound, etc. Leave alone that. Otherwise, even the women in the so-called dominant community also were not given equal opportunity to participate in decision making, etc. They were very passive listeners, and there will always be a darbar kind of a discussion where you could see, if you go and see some pictures on the website, you will see only men heads. Women will always be staying somewhere. They just peep in to serve people. So so this was the kind of a setup I am just saying. So such the voices of science also will be masculine. It is difficult. They never took into, hardly there were some women as poets, etc. So their contributions were there. History is written from only the point of view of men of the dominant class and race. This is to be underlined. So when I say men also, it is not the entire spectrum of men, but only the dominant class, and in the Western context, it is race also, white versus black. Here we are talking about the ethnicity or the class and caste. There it is race. And therefore, after alternative theories of knowledge that legitimate women and marginalized as lowest. So this feminist knowledge, feminist theories, and also for that matter, any other theories emerging from the marginalized communities, whether it is Dalit feminism, now we are talking about ecofeminism also, there is a different school of thought to connect the eco-environmental need with women, because women are always associating themselves with nature, and you know about Chikpo movement, I think some of you are working on that. So Dhanasiva contributed to understand how women's knowledge is totally being ignored and there is a need to. And I've recently been to talk on the ecological justice movements and gender justice in ecological justice movement. Most of the ecological justice or environmental movements were very mainstream in thinking, largely giving up or not recognizing the women's knowledge, etc. So now there is a change taking place slowly, where women's questions, and particularly among the tribal communities, when the policies of the government is to destruct the resources which was actually used by these community in general and women in particular for this either cultivation or cultivation of vegetable crops or my research, forest producers, etc. That were contributing to not only the economic opportunity for the women, but it is also ensuring food security, etc. So destructing or destroying those lands and converting them to commercial use on the one hand, and declaring some use as reserve forests for by the government, etc., really played havoc to this women's access to resources, and as such, food security and economic opportunities are in question. Similarly, methodologies used for gender research were developed from. So that is for group of feminists, and this is about gender. So gender, I told, it is a very broader category. So that it is again not women. It is always taken as gender means women. Invariably, it is being used also because of the kind of issues, relatively speaking, compared to men, issues of women were male. And transgender we started recognizing now, and therefore that is still marginal. Women's issue in a broader context, and then emerging issues about the sex, class, race biases in traditional research methodology. So this is the foundation on which we will be discussing. I will be continuing this next session also tomorrow. So I'll try to focus. Next. So here another important is, it is not a method. Such methodology, a method is
a perspective. Like you have to understand here in women's studies or gender studies, and of course studies about the marginalized. It is a perspective, how I view. That's what I said. There is diversity on the one hand, and different schools of thought or views or perspectives. Like I see, I was talking about feminism itself, the mainstream feminism versus Dalit feminism, or other marginalized. Now we are talking about transgender also. So they dismiss that your argument about, see, or whatever the kind of priorities you list there in your demand may not be the same for us. Our priorities are totally different. We are striving for mainstreaming ourselves to the center of. Similarly here, the gender research, we always keep the, want to keep, or it should be kept as the center of discussion. That is missing. So gender research takes the concept of research methodology as a perspective, not as a method. So each school of thought will have its own perspective, and you will see how a particular issue, so for example poverty. So poverty is again the kind issue of whom? Among the mostly the marginalized communities, working class. So whenever you are discussing about, that is why thanks to UNDP you have various methods being introduced, right from human development report to now gender development report, etc. Wherein these qualitative aspects, taking or drawing from Amartya Sen's capability approach, they have incorporated all those. So it is of late recognized that when it comes to the question of poverty, the issues of the marginalized should be kept in mind. Working class should be taken into account. What are their issues? Why? And women particularly. They have emphasized, they were highly emphatic on women because UN underlines the fact that poverty has women's face. Always when there is only little resource, the mothers, the sisters, the aunts who will be sacrificing and serving the available food to the entire family members, they will rather forego little or they even starve. So that is why it was not me, even in the Human Development Report underlined that poverty as a women's space. And therefore in the UNDP approach also it was incorporated. So the perspective underlining the research methodology is most important to gender sensitive research. I was talking about gender perspective, so everything you have to, here I am using gender in a broader context, including the marginalized perspective, and also gender sensitivity. When I go and sit with people, see, as an outsider, most of you are political science. I'll go as a political science researcher, I'll see these women are elected, but they are there in the field, the men are only ruling. This is a very mainstream perspective. But when I go deeper into and try to understand why the women have been elected by the people who voted for, and with all expectation the people voted and elected her. But she is working there in the field whenever there is a meeting. Or worst is that even when the meeting is being convened, she will be there. She won't be equally offered seats here to sit. Somewhere here, sometime you can see. Even the worst will be happening, like the women from the hierarchy, caste hierarchy, sometimes it will be the constituency for marginalized communities, like the reserve category, be it SC or ST. Women, one disadvantage, SC or ST, another disadvantage, and I belong to serving community, I mean the working class community. So these three put together is a total disadvantageous position. So I won't even offer to sit there. I'll be simply sitting somewhere in the squatting position or the corner. I am the elected president of this constituency. This I have witnessed because one of my students worked on this inclusion in local governments. So a lot of anecdotes, experiences also. So when I go deeper into the context, then I try to bring all these intersectional elements and try to analyze. It is not the issue of the women who just, for the namesake, they've been nominated and they have been thoroughly told at the beginning itself. You see, I am coming to the politics first time. I may not be knowing, so I will resist as a woman. But these people will convince. No, you don't have to do anything. You just sign wherever we need. That's all. Sometimes I'm sorry to say this because I've been part of several capacity building program for these elected women, where The men will also come. Whenever there is a meeting, the men will also come and sit. And in fact, it was some time had happened in Madurai. I was there, and the people who were organizers, they had to literally tell them and pull them out, and they took them out. And the moment the tea break was given, because there was a form given to be filled, and the form, then they were waiting, these women also waiting for the men to fill it, because they were staying outside. But the worst thing I learned is that it was openly shared by the woman. The check also, see, I am the signatory as being an elected woman, but my either of the male, sometimes it will be my own male member, their father or husband, or I told you, the feudal structure, the caste structure, the men from the upper caste or the dominant caste, they will sign. It was shared. So even check signing has been done. And sorry to say all this because it is kind of discouraging, but at the same time, this is the reality. But things are changing, and there are efforts to also change. But this is what I mean to say the historical oppression and the suppression that the women in general and the women in these communities in particular face. So gender sensitive research. So I have to be gender sensitive. I quote this example because similarly I can talk an example over participation rate, or why the see, when you are talking about the contribution of women, it is only 20% to 30%. So as an economist, I will say, oh, only women, 30% of the women are participating. But as a gender economist, what I will do, I will go deeper into that and analyze, oh, these women are already working there at home, and therefore they are not able to spare time to go to the economic market, labor market. So that component should be brought, and that is why now in the periodic labor force survey, we did just completed in our Center for Women's Development Studies for the ILO to incorporate time use surveys to the labor force survey. Because when we go on the periodic labor force survey, they will collect data. They will just use the questionnaire where you will be asked how many hours you put in, etc. But now there is an attempt to incorporate the time use surveys, and it will be also telling, quote unquote, like how many hours that the women spend in unpaid labor. And one fact I forgot to mention is that this recently in the 23-24 PLFS survey report, women participation is 37% in rural, and total it is 41%. So this was very much appreciated by the government. Oh, women's economic participation had increased, but at the same time, when you go deeper and analyze, it is because of the inclusion of unpaid labor into the accounting system. Otherwise, so that means that 23-24% on paid employment continues. This jump from 23-27 now 41, 37 and 41 is because of the accounting of the unpaid labor. So thanks that because of the women's organizations, women's movement, that the government started recognizing the unpaid labor. Unpaid labor in the sense you will be going and working there in the field. Some right from the morning, men will also work, but women will also go and work. They as family labor on the one hand, managing the labor, or even they will also mix with people. They go involved in transplantation, in weeding, and in the harvesting, and even packing and processing of the harvest. They will be packing, and packing they will be doing, and shifting only the men will do. So all stages the women will, and this is not paid, quote unquote. So this unpaid has been now included into this labor force, but doesn't have payment, and therefore you will see, oh, 40% of the women are working. That is true, because now the government has started taking into account that unpaid labor. But at the same time, economic contribution will be only 23-24% because this is unaccounted in terms of monetary payment. So what questions are investigated? Okay, since the gender sensitive approach I was talking, research, why it has to be, the research methodology is most important to gender sensitive research, because the theoretical frameworks which undergird research, your own project also, you see your own topic here, greatly influence first what questions are investigated, what data is collected from whom, and how the data is analyzed, interpreted and reported. Okay, when I set the question, when I frame a question, it has a lot of implications. It's not simply a question or a statement. I'm going to administer this question to you, and it is diverse, and each one will respond in a perspective. So the response which will be coming from as an educated person will be different. The same question is put to a person who is less educated, working class, who is only taking care of the household work, will be different. So the experiences are different, and therefore the gender sensitive research in the theoretical framework also, because you are all in the beginning stage, some of you, you can keep that in mind, that it is not simply a research. Whatever question I frame, it will influence the people, the person who is going to respond to that question. And that question responses would be different. It won't be the same because the diversity. So you need to appreciate and accommodate the diversity and try to interpret also the data accordingly. That's why it was starting from greatly influence what questions you are asking, what data. Sometimes the data, if it is not to their expectation, it is not that it is to be given up. It has to be modified. Because I haven't posed the question proper. That is why the data has come like this. So I have to redo. Now it is all like you have various methods. It will easily be showing any online questions also. So you can redo that. Or something lying, somewhere something has gone wrong, which I have to correct. And also followed by analysis and interpretation. So I have to analyze. Recently I have done a study last year with sanitation women workers. So I understood that in the current context, there is a feminization of sanitation work. Because those days permanent work was offered and sanitation was very much, men were more. And of course it is also another vulnerability that only certain communities will be found there in the sanitation work. It is not all the communities are engaged. So that itself, given that caste is a major issue, and again it is reinforcing that the same community, because in general any kind of cleaning, we will only be thinking someone who will be doing that work. We don't, either we should attempt to mainstream that cleaning work can be done by anyone, or we ourselves do. No, any time any sanitation work is to be undertaken, whether it is a university system or in our household system, we expect that particular community. So that is a kind of it's a gendered expectation. And so what I felt was there in the study, the contract employment is on the feminization is related to contract employment. Because of the contract, more and more women are joining, because permanent employment means there will be more, like you will be drawing 50,000 to 60,000 if you are a 10 to 15 year old experienced person in the sanitation sector. But it is for contract work you hardly pay 10,000 to 15,000. So I could see some of you feeling sleepy. I could see some. Sorry, please wake up. If you want, you can go out and come back. So what is actually being in this feminization versus contractualization? So contract labor system, whenever the contract labor system emerged, this is happening. And there are a number of issues I have identified, so that everything were seen in gender lens, gender perspective, or great gender sensitivity on the one hand, and also sensitivity towards the marginalized communities on the other hand. So that is what I mean sensitivity. Okay. So when it was very sometimes it is very hard to understand, but still, or what I should say, see their vulnerability. It was also like we also feel very bad. Why this community? For 5 generations together in this study, they were all engaged in this work, have been engaging in this work, and every attempt made by the parents to withdraw their own wards out of sanitation work could not help, because I already told you the system. The system expects this particular community to come. And the second is that there is no other work. That is the major issue. They feel, see, they have also graduated. I am sorry to say that some of the graduates are also in sanitation work. Because even after PhD, people are dying only 10,000, yes, guest lecturers, etc. But this work is giving 15,000. So I could see particularly women, some of the women, BA economics, I also from my own fraternity, this discipline also, and one then from management, and one from communication. All these, they are drawn from this community, and they have had the opportunity to continue their education, and therefore they could. But unfortunately, they are not able to get employment, and the employment also, even if they get also, it's very minimally paid. That is one thing. The second is that acceptance. The moment you show your Aadhaar card, and because it is a local economy, you know this particular place is for this people, and this particular is for this people. So the moment that address is given, even in the very big malls, seeing the Aadhaar card, they are not admitting, because there is a tendency, oh, these people are not properly trained and they may be stealing, they may steal in future. All those perspectives are there among the public. And in one case, that girl had to show some other Aadhaar card, some other address. But later on, it was found, and she was dismissed, which was in a jewelry shop, huge jewelry shop. So these are all the kind of perspective from the mainstream communities, which is this particular, I'm not talking about this alone, it is in general on the marginalized communities. This, so when you conduct study, their understanding about the society, their vulnerability. So they've been trying to withdraw. On the other hand, there are a number of other dynamics also. One I will quote to understand this perspective. They take leave 1 day or 2 days, and there are other systems also. If I take leave, I will give a substitute, and the substitute I have to pay. And there, in order to give my leave, I have to also bribe to the supervisor, because otherwise he won't or she won't, mostly he only, won't allow me to take leave. So, or it is a loss of pay, because it's only contract work, and 500 loss for me 1 day. Rather, if I give a substitute 200 or 300, I can, or here 200 and 200, still my leave will be there, because loss of pay will also count on your permanency, etc. So there I found, okay, see, I am taking leave, and this woman was thanking the supervisor after bribing 200 also. Oh, he is giving us leave, no, that is very important. So this is what, see, as an outsider, what I say, why he charges 200 rupees? That is my perspective. But from her perspective, she says that she is giving leave, otherwise I will be on rasa pay. So for that, doesn't matter, right? So this is her stand, whatever perspective. So I have to read this particular, or write this, or interpret this data from this perspective. I mean, though I have my own perspective to interpret the data, you have to also accommodate that perspective. So or such a perspective still provides, whatever. So that is what here I want to say. So how that data is analyzed, interpreted and reported. So this, I gave this example. Similarly, female sex worker study I have done. See, one quote, I can quote an example where this woman who lost her husband, they were the marriage by choice, and this was marriage by choice, and therefore that means both the parents did not agree. They came on their own and married and continuing, but he was the construction worker and lost his life, and therefore there are 2 children, baby girls. And what to do? And that was one he lost when she was pregnant. So she started the same work, what I told, this construction work. When you know construction sector, when young woman, widow woman, so how the system will exploit. So they started, over the supervisor, the co-worker, to others, masons, etc. They started demanding her sex. And sometimes next day work will be offered only when she agrees to their favors, sexual favors. And this was continuing. After some time, she was also yielding herself, because she was not able to cope up. There is no other go. That child, no, the child born, little one only she could take with her. The other elderly girl, 3 or 4-year-old girl, left with the neighbors. And this distance would be around 100 kilometers from the place where she stayed. And she would come to, say for example, I am talking about Manimekalai, maybe one from Tamil Nadu, might know, Ralimalai is known for sex work, and that of the red light area. And so she started sex work as a professional sex work. So when we asked, she said, see, 150 rupees or 200 rupees the wage. For that I was demanded to yield myself. So that is why I became. And here also, even if you earn 2,000, 3,000, you have to give to the police, to other kind of people, and end up with, and you have to also eat proper. Sometimes you consume liquor. All these will put together will demand more money. And the same is with the male sex workers. Recently on March 8th, I was there in Trichy and participated in the March 8th program and had a discussion with the male sex workers. That's a project in which they work. So this is also kind of a perspective in which why, because the family acceptance about the transgender is a big question. We're still making noise, and it is slowly, at least acceptance is there happening. At least in this project I came to know that they recognized and they declared that they are transgender, and but for their survival there is a demand also to kind of making themselves present proper, a lot of cosmetics to be bought, and they have to eat proper, etc., and they engage in this work only, sex work. And when you go and ask, many a time we always, why these people, they should rather go and work, why they are not. But once you recognize yourself as transgender, people are not even offer work, offer employment. There are policies like in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, etc. Government is progressive in recognizing their needs, and in the recent budget also there were allocations for transgender, but it is not happening very much across all the states. Okay, so that is what I meant gender sensitive research in any context, with any community, any group, social group. When you deal with, you have to go with their perspective and analyze, or stand in their perspective and analyze. Gender methodologies must be able to adapt to different circumstances. So I have been telling all these. So whatever situation, whatever context you are studying, the sanitation workers in those days, 50 years back, if I had studied, that was taken for granted. But now it is in the now present context, after the new liberal policies, what is happening? Why the people are not able to withdraw? What is really sticking them to all these? So different, and the findings also be different. Like in that context, findings or analysis itself must have been different, and the findings, and now it is. So in fact, the key aspect of gender methodology is flexibility. So it has to admit flexibility, taking and the other points, different circumstances, adapt to different circumstances and different situations. Okay, I just leave it for some space for discussion and then proceed, please, because I kept talking. Any
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you did mention right now about the caste mobility rigidity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So caste and class are different, very different things. Class could be upgraded. If you are earning, then you could be like upgraded. But society in North India and except Northeast India, we are very rigid about caste mobility. Even if you earn, even if you earn,
in South also.
in South, I have been in South for 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
In Tamil Nadu,
Okay.
I have seen.
Okay.
Yeah, so lots of discriminations. So, what do you think about like in Tamil Nadu, in your perspective, like could be how far we'll be fighting for the mobility to get flexible?
Which mobility? Caste or class?
Caste.
Caste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are evidences, some studies, B. Geeta and others, they have done that in the urban context. So urbanization has helped to a certain extent. I don't know about the other region here. And Tamil Nadu, at least I should say that if you go back, you will be here, you won't be discriminated at all. Say for example, Chennai. You have come and you are working, you won't be seen. There will be remote chances of trying to know which background you are from. But at the same time, it is not a big issue. When you are there working, they don't simply say, there are indirect ways of asking, maybe he will know. You will be asked, what is your native place? They will try to understand what community you belong to. Because there are some regions In that region, if you say that I am from Tirunelveli, I am from Salem, I am from Tirupattur, they will try to identify.
Actually, I went from West Bengal to Chennai, Pondicherry and Andhra to
Okay.
study. They asked me, what caste do you belong to?
See, that
I
is
said
a,
ST.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So that is one thing. So in urban, it is slowly vanishing in the sense you are not being discriminated, identifying yourself whether you belong to the upper caste or the other caste. But in the rural, it is very much prevalent. Very much. Very sorry state of affairs. Still caste conflicts are happening. And the very worst case I could recently also, last some couple of, or at least 4-5 years back also, the there was a death in the Dalit community. This particular road to which they have to proceed to graveyard, that had happened in Nagapatnam. They were not, it is all broken because of the train. That itself is a coastal belt and very worst in term west affected whenever there is any flood or any cyclone. So these people were asking to take in this route where the upper caste communities. That is a street, no, in rural areas. So very completely divide that this will be, even the very name itself, in Tamil we say Melathiru, Keelathiru. Male means not this male, upper portion, keel means lower. That is in a way connected to the community also. They say the people who are Dalit communities or other less marginalized communities, Keelathiru. Keela means lower. Melathiru means all people who are upper caste males. So this street meant for the upper caste communities were resisting. I'm sorry to say this. They had to go to the court, and court also see that till that point in rural areas the dead body was kept, and if it is going to the court, it is not going to happen on the same day. It took 3 days, 4 days, and after the judgment was in favor of this particular people to use this. But even end of the day, they were not allowing. It is a contempt of court. See how caste is so ingrained to this extent. It is dead body. He is no more or she is no more. But even then, you are not allowing this particular body to go or the people to. And this has been there in the very, even small children, in which Tamil people will understand the way in which the upper caste communities address the so-called marginalized community people itself will be without any recognition, respect. Even you are grown up over 50 years, the upper caste men will address in Tamil ways of vada poda. That means without any he. In English we don't have that difference at all, but in Tamil there is. So that means the disrespect, or you are after all serving, whether irrespective of, there is a close association with class and caste also in rural areas. The class also, they are working class, and they working class in the sense, you all know that the occupational divisions, those days, no? Like you have washerman community, carpenter community, cobbler community, the potter community, etc., etc. It is, people claim, now also, they claim that the occupational division, the caste division is only for the occupations. But actually it is not. It is also another way discriminatory. So this is what it is, urbanization in the work context. So that is why people say recently he must be knowing a lot of movies, I think Asuran and the other one more is Dhanush film, no? They all came out with a very strong message that Ranjit is one Dalit director who is coming up with strong message that education, go to school, get education. Education is the only way out to come out of this discrimination. But even if you sit there as a president, you will be referred as Dalit president. So this doesn't go. So there are evidences that in some temples you are not allowed, even if you happen to be the president, the first citizen of the country. And it had happened there in the Ayodhya temple also, we witnessed. So that is what I say, that this is a very strong-footed, deep-rooted system. And I'm afraid, on the one hand, education, but on the other hand, your own perspective of our sensitivity towards recognizing our own fellow beings as equal, isn't it? Unless otherwise I recognize, what is the meaning of just talking about others? So that is why I keep saying that when you preach, you also behave. You also, implement. You are talking that on the stage, you have to seek equality, you have to, even in the gender context also. When you say, equally the responsibilities at home to be shared. I was talking about unpaid labor. If men also share at home, women will easily be facilitated to go out and work. And when you say, oh, economic participation because women are overburdened with, how many years you will keep saying? You have to practice that at home. So it is my own responsibility to share the responsibilities and give equal space for my own women members at home to go improve themselves, enhance their skills, to place their skills there in the labor market, but which is missing. So yeah, anything else? So urbanization could be one possibility and education is the other. Of course, our own way of recognizing, doing, dealing with equality. It is not that always you will talk but you stick to. That is the hypocrisy, particularly the upper caste and caste and class also.
Full of hypocrisy, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions? Shall we proceed?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
when you say male sex worker, what does it entail? I mean, what is the classification of a male sex worker? I mean, like who have a sexual attraction to the opposite sex, or can you use
Yeah.
interchange?
Good that you asked question because I had my own doubt. That's why I got it clarified recently. Because in the female sex workers thing I know, and it was an attempt by our Department of Women's Studies, and also there was a USAID project, APAC, AIDS Control Prevention and Prevention. So they wanted to reformation of these female sex workers. So where it is completely engaging in commercial sex work. They go and engage there in the sex work, they will be paid. And it will be in the rural areas and urban areas, and there are several tenements in which they will be practicing, and it is accepted also accepted in the sense it will be happening there in one corner of the rural area, but it is, people know that it is a sex work place, but it is going. In the urban also they have that people running brothel home, etc. Where mostly women only, women, young girls. And in fact, I was shocked to hear that girls who in the school final, you would have heard about egg donation there in Gujarat. That is the maximum. Egg donation also brings a lot of money to the girls. In fact, some of the girls going for the college, they donated their egg because to pay the fees, etc. But it became a business later because it was bringing a lot of it. There are only 2 times you can donate also. It is not infinite. So same way, when I conducted the study, I come to understand the the girls also, school-going girls also were diverted to, because there is a market. This market won't leave you. There is small inclination, some people are required, then I may be influencing my own neighborhood. Are you coming? Will you be coming? So that way it is, I'm not going into that, but that is what the female sex work is, that female, either young girl or married or unmarried, or they engage in sex work for payment.
So that means the transgender will also be under the male.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. The second one, male to male, I told that because I am also not sure. That is why I asked my people from the project. So they said they turned into transgenders. Recently, they were either male to female or female to male. Mostly male to female to male. Male to female. But they dressed up as men only. So they will be attending the needs of the lorry drivers, etc. on the roads. That's what I was told. So here it is not the question of sex work. It doesn't mean that she herself describes that it is simply hugging, because these people know on the highways they'll be stopping there for some time. In the whole day they will be driving. So these male sex workers will be there standing on the roads, maybe happening in other parts also. So then it is an indication that okay, he is available. So then the people will come. That is what they use. I didn't go into the details of it, but the reason given by the male who were present there, they were the peer educators actually. They are also transgender persons. They said there is the moment the family come to know that they are transgender, they are excluding in some form or the other. or they force them to get married off, or they tell that no, it is should not be practiced, you should remain as a man or a woman, and so those things really force them to come to a jamaat, no, the community. So they associate themselves where primarily the person who is their head provide everything in the beginning, and later on these people will start earning. And that primarily is, one is their way of, they go and get money from various places, and the other one is majorly this is what it is. So this is what the
Which terminology will be better or empathetic? Sexual commercial worker or sex workers? Just one.
yeah, in the beginning it was told commercial sex work. Now it is sex work. It was, yeah, sex work. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Earlier it was used commercial sex. Yes.
Madam, in your introduction, you happened to mention that related to electoral politics, the performance of women is very less. One factor is patriarchal descent. Apart from this patriarchal system, what could be the other reasons which led to less women participation in electoral
Yeah, I think in the process I did describe from the women's side also, because I, being a woman, got elected by force. Like, I was not given all kind of information as about what is this, what I should do having been elected, and what would be my role. Many elected women are not even able to understand the roles and responsibilities. And there are certain areas, some 29 departments in which they can make decisions and deliver, and people go and sit with the people, ask the needs, and accordingly. And in certain cases, women performed very well, drawing resources from various. This was CSR also, and they were contributing. So this is one side of the coin, but the other side is completely I am knowledgeless. I have no awareness about me being elected at all, and therefore it was even told. So how much I am ignorant or innocent. That is what, like when people say that you just sign, you know not how to perform, but actually when having elected, you have to perform. Even that is not being understood by people. And second is that their own joy, like it is difficult. In fact, we had a 3-day workshop on participatory rural appraisal in a village. It was a participatory rural, means that you have to go and sit with people and conduct the sessions also there. So it was a training methodology course where we wanted to bring that elected woman who was a president. But when we contacted to provide accommodation there in the elementary school and also space for cooking, etc., it was all offered. We thought that okay, it was president only, but that woman was the elected president, but the man was delivering everything. Later on, having gone there only, we understood, okay, then I thought I should bring that woman to talk. So she came at the valedictory, she came after 3 days, and I asked her to talk. Then she refused to the extent possible, and I said, no, you have to hold the mic. Holding a mic is an indication of empowerment. You have to hold the mic. Then I gave the mic. Then I said, talk. At least one line you talk. It is not like I am asking you to preach, deliver a lecture. She said, thank you. That was the only thing. So that kind of a force had to be given for she is the elected woman of that particular constituency, but she was not able to perform. So I can't just simply say the patriarchal system, but even these are all the outcomes of the patriarchal system, where I have been socialized so. I have been docile, I have not been asked to talk in front of men or lead a meeting. And these things are all not expected from a woman. So that again, back of it is patriarchy. But at the same time, here I also say that dominant force here in the Indian context is caste. So caste is one and also patriarchy. So caste and patriarchy put together, and now religion also we can say. So all these are really pressing them to keep down. Yes, any other question?
What's
Yes.
your perspective on that women, they impose patriarchy more than men? I could feel that. So for my personal
Yeah,
experience.
this is like, in general, people will say women are enemies to women. The same statement will come. I don't subscribe to that. In fact, I was penalized in my university system by my own woman vice chancellor. So people started saying, oh, she's a woman, why is she? But I didn't subscribe to that because I also felt that she was not the one behind doing this. There are galaxy of men present and who gave many things about me, false thing. And she also added to that, she also understood. See, whatever I speak, I am very vocal. So when I speak something, I also spoke like even the Vice Chancellor when I asked for it was a capacity building program for UGC, Women Managers in Higher Education. So I just chat like this. I have represented to the Vice Chancellor that in every committees, women should be there. Any decision making committees in the university, you have to have women because women studies, its role is to also suggest this. And it was in the advisory committee. So I was told that, but and similarly, whenever an NAC visit is there, there will be a mark visit. And in the mark visit, all men professors only will be there, not the women professors. You have in this university or any other university you are from, you have both male and female faculty. But when it comes to some decision making thing, women faculty only will be, men only will be there. So I also represented this. When you are constituting committees, for example, NAC mark visit. Mark visit means you will have some 50 departments in the university. For every department, this 4-member committee or 3-member committee will visit. So why don't you have one woman faculty, senior faculty? So that it is a power, no? When you are going and dealing with, it's a power. So the response was that, no madam, women will be like, they are constrained with their time. They have to go back home. So this is what the perspective. See, given the responsibility, they will deliver. You are not offering the responsibility, but you continue to subscribe the notion, oh, women, if they are given responsibility, they can't. They have to attend the responsibility at home. Yes, of course. Even that's what I was telling you. Don't always still subscribe to the view that women should only go back and deliver the household duties. Why don't men also can equally divide? As being a woman in charge of the department or any faculty or any research or NAC times, you are supposed to work a lot, and therefore I shouldn't claim that in the professional context that I am a woman, I cannot do this, I cannot stay back after 6, I have work at home. On this I cannot give these excuses. Being a professional woman, I have to equally perform. So when that is the expectation, you should not. But unfortunately, I also say, though I don't subscribe, but it still happens many a time, and that is because of the ignorance. They don't feel that they are putting sand on their own head. When they don't support their own community of people, like women community, and men means men. Even now, currently, my study is on STEM, gender barriers on STEM, science, engineering, technology, engineering, maths. So in that also, I was talking about last year about sanitation workers, the deep bottom of the community where the dignity of labor itself is in a question. There again, the same problem they face, the gender barriers. And here, top of it, and I did this study, I am doing this also, is all the nationally important institutions like IIT, NISER, ISER, etc. These are all very NITs. So in those top institutions also, women faculty members are facing gender discrimination. And worst in terms of the marginalized. I'm sorry to say, in such nationally important institutions like IITs, in Chennai also, recently I did that, finished that interview, there are only 10% of the women. And when I asked, of the 100% faculty, only 10% women, when I asked for the breakups for the marginalized communities representation, people are not aware. The simple excuse came from one of the faculty members, he is from West Bengal. She said, no, in IITs we don't see whether you are from this or that, because all the creamy layer only will be going there. So everyone is equally competent. This is a very good way of making up. Yeah, but actually there should be. This is what it was told. So reservation policy has been already implemented, but you don't have. This is a big issue of concern in such institutes. If you don't implement, you think of 100% it will be still. That is why in Tamil Nadu, you may be knowing, IIT will be called as Iyer Iyengar Technical Institute. So that is what, so women, it is not women are enemies to women, but women are made to be. Like, again I should say the patriarchal system is picking them, do this, do this, do this. And all the time you just observe, everyday life you observe, women are the carriers of all the rules, norms, social norms to be taken forward to the next generation. The moment something happened in Tamil film, a lot of things. The woman eloped, immediately there will be a crush on women, push on the women only. How? Why? I mean, what is this? In Tamil they say, "Enna pulla valathirukka." What did you bring up? How did you bring this child up? So you are responsible. If you give a gold medal, father will recognize. Oh, my daughter. The moment she elopes and that too, if it is all this intercaste, all the more, and that too Dalit to non-Dalit, it is all the more challenging. And sorry to say this, honor killing is pervasive, all pervasive. The moment it is, what I should say, Dalit, non-Dalit getting into marriage, there are several cases I myself handled through this AIDWA. It is ruthless to the core, cruel to the core. They just, and we had interaction inviting the very victims. If they are not alive, their parents. How both of them also killed in some cases. And we know Kausalya case and also Ilavarasu Divya cases. There on the very road, in the very bus stand road, that Shankar was killed. When the Kausalya had to fight and she put the parents into bar. So all these things happened. And that is because of this honor killing. So where is the question of caste and gender? Both play here. And if a man happen to be a non-Dalit and girl, then it is all the more. How can this Dalit girl be a hat to my? So you know the hierarchy, caste hierarchy. Okay, so this is what I. Okay, shall I proceed? Yeah, feminist research. Sorry. Feminist research is interesting. At 11:30 is my session, no?
Yes.
Maybe I can continue it. So this signifies the intersectionality. So how there are different colors, different heights, different hierarchy, etc. And you have to recognize everything. So feminist research is intersectional. It questions how gender intersects with all other forms of oppression. So when I talk about gender, it is not just male, female or men-women differences. It is also how this gender intersects. Being a woman from upper caste, upper class, educated, urban, all these matter a different thing. And a woman from the marginalized communities, less educated and less privileged communities means all the more, very extremes. Here, everything we are privileged, and even in this also, in this STEM study, it was told that we are from privileged communities. We are 5 generations together, we have been getting education. So that is not a big issue. But at the same time, there was one point coming also that I should, I don't know whether we have to put into one of the very, very senior professors. She was telling, see, we now rely on rural students, but because others are all going for IT and other areas. So for research, people who are coming for the science research, STEM, it is only rural students. But in rural students, when it comes to, again, the discrimination is on girls. So girls, women students coming there to Ph.D. or PDF are again further pressurized by the household dynamics. Like one of the girls to whom I was discussing in Bangalore, she was doing PDF. Once married, her parents-in-law were there in Delhi. So she was pressurized to come to Delhi. So it was all happened like you got married and still she completes her study. She should continue, no? It is a laboratory-oriented study. She cannot sit here. But there were pressures and she had to give up. And so these kind of pressure are there. You simply feel, oh, you have gone to that extent of doing in a very premier institution PDF. Such an achievement for a girl. But whether it is privileged community or not, that's a different thing. But even then the patriarchal forces, the social expectation which continues to. So that is why everything, so being you have different hierarchies in terms of class. You have the upper class, very huge income earning communities, and lower class, that's the wage earning communities. Landowners, all those things will come. Here the coolie wage earners. Then you have class differences. Caste differences. India is known for that, and it is one of the diseases, a social disease here in the Indian context, irrespective of the region. And it is, the other day when I was, I visited my student who is in Haryana, and she has a small in the sense, 7th standard girl. She was just asking, because people now are, I am talking about school girls, see, when we were there in school, I don't know about you, I didn't understand what was caste till some time. Maybe when I joined higher education only, I would have even recognized it. Otherwise, we were all together, school girls, good friends, that's all. But now, that girl, 7th class, she was asking, what religion you belong to? She said, Hindu. Hindu? There is no religion at all, she was telling. No, I am Hindu. What caste? And she mentioned that caste also. And she herself said, my student, ma'am, she was not knowing all these before 1 year. Now she comes to know all this. So I don't know, it was not simply a sharing, but it is a kind of a topic, research topic. Why it is happening there in this context, understanding about the religion and caste. Why, what, who, all these need to be questioned. So how things are being ingrained again and going backwards. Like I cannot say those days. Now it is all the more, it is a kind of reversal is happening, and thanks to, at least to some extent, we all escaped from that. But now we have the responsibility, social responsibility, to not to impart such perspective, at least to our own wards in future. That is what we can at least take care of all this. Next. Maybe I'll stop with this. This itself will take 1 hour, but I just give, because she is the one who really worked on this Reinhardt 92. She feminist, was the one worked on feminist research methods, and her contributions are very much on these ideas. So she summarizes, so I'll just finish this, and tomorrow we can talk about the gender research, where we will be talking about on the, maybe mostly I'll be sharing the action researches, because it is researchers, because I'm standing here as a researcher, but at the same time as an action researcher, and there is a close connection between research and action research and research. So when someone said women entrepreneurship, I've been working on women entrepreneurship for the past 30 years or so. So I did some researches and implemented the findings into kind of creating some structures, and from the structures, institutions, I came to also learn again and deliver into research projects. So that is why those things we will discuss tomorrow. So feminism is a perspective, not a research method, which I have already told, and she also says this, Reinhardt also. Feminists use a multiplicity of research method. So the discussions we had so far in this 1 hour or so definitely informed you that yes, the feminist research cannot have a single focus. It has to identify, accommodate the diversity. It may be in terms of caste, class, religion, region, culture, and the entire social institutions. The institution starts from family. So family, caste, class, religion, region, market, state. State also is an institution. Then law is another institution. So there are some progressive laws happening, but still you have very regressive judgments being delivered by the judiciary. And you have the media, that is the worst. Now, given the social media and other kind of platforms, there are scope, like you can take forward these kind of equality messages, but at the same time the worst is happening, and that will get spread faster than the very good things. So these are all the various institutions. They go and support to reinforce on the one hand the kind of discrimination and inequalities provided in the society, and also sustain. See, and if these institutions play a positive role, progressive role in attacking the kind of inequalities and address the discriminatory practices, it will be good. But unfortunately, even when it comes to media, you have to talk about alternate media. So alternate media will be coming out with some progressive ideas that will be very marginal. It won't be spread to all the mainstreams. It will be only with the, even when we are talking about in politics also, when you are with some alternative perspectives, those alternative perspective people's group will be very limited. And we will again and again will be drilling. But the mainstream will be discussing different. So that is why multiplicity of research methods. Tomorrow we will discuss all those. Feminist research involves an ongoing criticism of non-feminist scholarship. So the mainstream research, whether it is sociology or political science or economics, whatever, the theories of sociology, economics and all were very much criticized by the feminist theories for not the very beginning I told you, accommodating or including the perspectives of women's or women's knowledge, and as such they suffer with the dominant force, the knowledge of the dominant force, completely ignoring the experiences of women. So whatever I have talked about, whether it is sanitation work, and I have also done a study on, evaluation study on this KGVB scheme under SSA, you must have read that, Kasturiba Balika Vidyalaya, where 10 to 14-year-old girls not enrolled or dropped out from the school will be accommodated. Central government completely supports that scheme. And so these girls are given a rebirth to their education. They were dropped out or never enrolled. Now, because of this alternative schools available, they could be brought. And when we studied, that was giving an understanding that rural girls, marginalized community girls, economically backward, so everything comes, class, and also girls were, or daughters of those parents where one parent is not there, no more there, whether it's a fatherless or motherless. Sometimes the father also in rural areas, I did the study in the Universal Focus District, Krishnagiri in Tamil Nadu, where it is very common to find, because that is Andhra, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. It is a kind of, what is, I should say, it's a combination of 3 states. So they just leave the family where they got married with the children and come set up another family. So deserted. So the women will be continuing to kind of bring up the children, and once they reach around 10 years, 12 years, they will send to the labor market. And you have there in Tamil Nadu, the entire Coimbatore, the west belt, Tirupur, Road, Karur, etc. are all textile and garment rich districts, and therefore these you must have read in the scheme, camp labor scheme or Sumangali scheme. Now it is no longer called as Sumangali scheme. So these girls, young girls, will be taken for contract for 3 years under that scheme. So the people also feel that, okay, let my child be safe there, let her also bring income. So now, because of this government scheme, they could be redeemed from them there thanks to those NGOs, and they got studied. So what I understood is that, see how these dropout occur. It's a very glaring information that people from these marginalized communities, in this some of you are working here, disabilities and always an exception. If a girl happens to be disabled, it is taken for granted. She will just be put aside there. She won't be, I have several cases attended there in rural areas in my own university neighborhood, and kind of integrated them into the formal education there. We have the disability center in the university system, so we go and pick up those girls and also link them with some employment and link them with the school where, that's what I meant, the action research. So when you are working with the disability, you can't just give some research findings and leave. You have to also, whatever you have suggested in the findings should be implemented at least to a certain extent to validate your findings, so that the research will be replicated in other areas. So feminist research is guided by feminist theory, which is talking about equality. Nothing but feminist theory is talking about equal representation of women in every sphere of life, that's all. Social, economic, political, etc. Feminist research may be transdisciplinary. Of course, we are all here very multidisciplinary, and it can be like gender can be part of every discipline. That is why this social science research and even social science disciplines in general should integrate gender. And thanks to Annie Oakley and others, 1980 onwards, this concept of gender is gaining ground, and it has been now widely used. One either incorporating gender in the disciplines in the curriculum, or I'll have those present. Slides also later. And feminist research aims to create social change. Definitely, whatever the focus, that should be like even this sanitation workers. We did represent this to the municipal corporation. These are the things. Minimum ESI, PF at least should be. A social security should be there. So PF is started deducting, and ESI that was not done. And even if it is done, it was not informed. And the worst is that maternity leave is not being given for many cases, and it was also informed. Then that is what I said, create social change. Feminist research strives to represent human diversity that we already discussed. Feminist research frequently includes the researcher as a person. So you are going not in any, you are, many a time it is in the mainstream research, oh, I am coming, I am a researcher. You have to respond, that kind of an attitude. I was in economics, that is what I experienced. As if we are going and people will resist, why you are coming here? No, we don't have time. You'll say, see, even I used to say, we have come here, definitely if this research is done, it will be helping, so why don't you spare? But in the women's studies research, you cannot. You have to keep your research equal. You have to take their time. You have to go bend yourself to get their time, not hierarchically sitting up. I am from Delhi, I have come here to take data from you. You have to oblige, kind of, this thing should not be so. Not issues of women gender, and at the same time when you are talking about parents, poverty on the one hand, and also the historical roots of sun preference, etc. And the sun preference was very much here in Haryana, Punjab, etc. They contributed. So there were issues of dowry system. See, the report was very much talking about dowry, and now we have a lot of other issues cropping up. It is not dowry alone, as a violence. And about economic participation of women also, those in 74 itself, the report pointed out, the Towards Equality report, the first kind of report on status of women in India. And now also we face the same thing. So there are new issues cropped up. The report did not talk about the climate change, because those in 70s we didn't talk about, or we didn't discuss, or we didn't face, or we didn't realize that climate impact would be a huge issue in future. But now we are discussing, and there are a number of areas. So how to integrate whatever the areas I have been mentioning, there are very, very core issues of concern in the gender studies context, and it is part of the social sciences. I don't claim that gender studies is a separate discipline a note should talk about, but in every social science component we are dealing with social issues, and gender is one part of the social issues, and therefore whatever I have discussed, which was pointed there in the reverse equality report also very much. So having understood that there is differences, there are differences in inequities between men and women, when we are kind of planning any project, any intervention project, there are a number of schemes the government has been introducing. Even for the sex ratio, we have Beti Bachao Beti Padhao system, and for the higher education, there are a number of schemes in different states and also central government, and even that also encourages, that Beti Bachao scheme also encourages girls' education, and there are incentives given for the families who stop with family planning with two girls. There are deposits done under the scheme Suganya Yojana, all those. So what is gender integration? Having understood, recognized that there are differences, you have to integrate in all the stages. It is not that you just integrate gender and you see that particular project in a perspective, in a gender perspective, and incorporated the needs of the girls. For example, when it comes to sanitation, it is always when the NAC visit comes, then every institution will be pushing towards seeing everything is in order, and they will fix the incinerator to dispose the used napkins and also vending machines. And the moment it is gone, it will be kept. It won't be even maintained of those things. This is one component that okay, you need a gender sensitive, girl friendly toilets or women friendly toilets, but it should be seen that it will be maintained and it will be mainstreamed whenever there is a need that has to be taken care of. And washrooms, provision of washrooms for the girls, and a representation of women in committees. I'll be talking about gender audit, etc. Where I'll be. So in every stage it has to be seen. It is not that you just initiate and leave it and leave. No, it will have to be monitored whether that particular institutionalized initiative sustained. So that is why planning, implementation, assessment. So while coming and assessing also, so for example, NAC is also seen in a wider perspective. There is a separate provision to view the provisions in the campus, the gender sensitivity initiatives, etc. So that not only NAC, in general, our own management should assess whether I'll be in detail talking there in the audit. So this will lead to, so the differences when you integrate gender in all the entire cycle of a program implementation, right from planning, implementation, assessment, it will lead to greater social equality and improved outcomes. So this is what ultimately we would like to, but we are talking about equality, it will be achieved slowly. It is not possible for this 50 years of towards equality also. It was assessed very much. There are progresses, I don't deny that. But at the same time, there are backlogs that has to be next. So the gender integration, how it will take place. So there are two initiatives. This is a gender blind environment, or you are not considering the needs of individuals, gender needs of the individuals, whether it is men or women or transgender and others. Whenever I go to the hotels, like here it is a guest house, but when we go somewhere, we used to see in the hotels ashtray for the smokers will be kept. I wonder, several women also now started going, but there is no provision for the sanitary napkin. Sometimes it may be an emergency, and if you fail to carry one, this is you have to go and buy. So you have integrated the smoke people who are in need of ashtrays. That is always kept in the room. But the other needs, because now women also, maybe that is because those days women did not go out and also stayed in hotels officially, professionally. Now started coming. So you need to analyze, the whole hotel management should analyze that there is a need to keep, I am just pointing to this. There may be other needs also. So that has to be assessed. And that is why you have to move from gender blind to gender aware. Gender sensitive, it is better still. Aware, everyone is aware that there is inequality, but we are not sensitive towards it. So there is a difference between awareness and sensitivity. So that gender blind is an exploitative system where it is accommodating, like okay, inequality is there, let me exploit it. Women are coming for cheap wage, let me exploit. So that is not the concern. See, you have to proceed, your journey should be towards bringing equal wage. Just because women are available for lower wage, that is the case right from agriculture to any other industrial labor, they will be hired because even among the educated in the education sector also, more and more women will be hired as guest lecturers or whatever. On the one hand, structurally the women prefer teaching. Whenever you raise this question to a small girl, or even among us it would have been raised, when you ask what is your ambition, they will say teaching. Later now people are saying pilot, police, etc., IAS officer, etc. But those days I am talking. So the system is also accommodating, trying to accommodate or exploit, I should say, exploit the gender blind environment where differences are there, that is utilized in their favor. The system, I mean the capitalist system, the patriarchal system. And so when you are gender aware, you will accommodate and try to transformate it, try to be transformative. It is explained here in this slide. Can you go down? Yeah, what is this gender blind to gender aware? See, just I am giving one example. It knows a set of economic or social political roles. So it is gender blind. It is not even treating women and men and other genders equal, and therefore it denies. There are a number of examples. Property rights. I am in a particular place where the Northeast region land rights is still denied, isn't it? Even educated women are not able to fight for it. Recently, I was there in Itanagar, and we had a workshop on women and land rights, and it was very much coming from the women panchayat president themselves. Okay, what is there if the lands are on men's name? They are the leaders, they are governing the entire agriculture system, but still ownership is not there. They don't care. They just let it go, what is there? Girls cannot be given. And the worst part of it is that when we discussed and we heard a person sharing, saying that that particular family did not have a male heir at all. So the daughter was taking care of, daughter and son-in-law were taking care of the entire elderly parents till their lives, end of their lives. But the property was not given to them. It was taken over by the community. So this is the kind of a system in which we are. And therefore, one is the property right, but there are people, marginalized community, they may not have land at all or properties at all. So there it is the other system. What is the entitlement? How do you assess and how these schemes are really. So when you are gender blind, you don't. Now only you start recognizing that women should also be equal partners of development, and therefore started giving. And now also in the beginning it was a welfare approach. It was not considering the agency, quote unquote, among the women, because whatever the scheme, it is welfare oriented. It was welfare oriented throughout. Recently, to some extent, it is focusing on the agency of the women. And one I could quote, it is somewhere else also, even in Bengal, I heard that they are. This 1,000 rupees towards higher education support, monthly 1,000 rupees is being given to people who passed their secondary school plus higher secondary school from the government schools, if they are qualified from and joining higher education, not for the other private schools but government schools. So this is to take care of more admission there in the government schools, and also make more and more underprivileged. Earlier it was only in Tamil Nadu, it was only for the girls. Now it is extended to the boys also. So those who have completed their plus 2 there in the government schools are captured irrespective of no criteria. That is the blessing, because sometimes you will give hell a lot of criteria and you won't be eligible. But now it is without any criterion there. So that is what you are trying to accommodate and recognize the agency. So higher education, taking the girls and boys from the vulnerable and underprivileged community towards higher education is one goal, which if properly utilized and capitalized them towards the kind of employment drawing away from. For example, Vishwakarma, there is a criticism in Tamil Nadu saying that it is reinforcing the family occupation. So my father is engaging in this, say for example carpenter. So when I reach 18 as a ward of this respective gender, you will be given 5 lakh rupees. So the criticism is, why not you give this 5 lakh to the father, let him expand, or let the mother expands the occupation rather than giving to the boys. You are making them to go down to their own. I don't undermine the kind of work, but I may have an aspiration, though I have been drawn from this family of some family occupation, rural artisanship, whatever. I may have an aspiration towards, moving towards upward mobility, what we call. But why you want to introduce a system in a way indirectly implying that this scheme, this is what the critic I am just saying. And so when you underline all these in the gender blind, you move to the gender aware, where it examines, addresses these gender considerations and adopts an approach along the continuum. So that is in a way communicating that from the gender blind to you have to move to gender aware strategies. It may be in any context, whether it's the education sector or in the industrial sector, corporate or social sector, whatever it may be. And so accordingly this is defined. So exploitative means I have already explained that the system always make use of the kind of inequalities prevailing, and it will always make use in favor of it. And so accommodating these differences, you try to bring a transformation that will lead to gender equality and better outcomes. Okay. So this is what this gender integration. In any research project, when you conduct your own Ph.D. also, you have to move the system from gender blind to gender aware. Next. Coming to the research and also disciplines. So this is ultimately, since we belong to an academic arena. So what kind of strategies is advocated for? So engendering social science disciplines. So for example, we are talking about the university system. So in the university system, how to integrate gender. So there are a number of ways we have to do. That's what I am going to talk. Gender analysis and gender auditing to be taken, to be undertaken. So first it will be institutional support for gender mainstreaming, faculty, university level. So first and foremost, there has to be a committee in the university system that will assess and discuss with the management, the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the Finance Officer, the Controller of Examinations, as to how the gender representation is happening in each section. Whether there are, so there will be committees. I have been in the university system for more than 30 years, wherein I have observed that many a time the nominations will come in the heads meeting. Nominations will come from the Vice Chancellor or others. It will be sticking to the male, mostly it's 90% to male, and hardly any one female. And even inviting for the courses in the HRDC, now it is MMTC. In the HRDC, earlier it was called Academic Staff College. Even speakers, no, I was told by one of the refresher courses in economics or any other subject, I think, people came and because I was just staying next to Academic Staff College in my campus earlier. And they said, Madam, we had 58 resource persons for this 28 days, but none of them were women. So this was the reality. Then luckily in that particular day, they had Academic Staff College directors meet in our own campus. Then I made it, because some of them happened to be our own associates. So I went and made a mark. Why don't you? So the reason given was, Madam, we are calling, one or two we already called, but they declined. And they declined at the last minute. This will happen to 58 men called also, but it doesn't occur as an issue. But when you call 2 women or 3 women, if they are not available, and that is also true. Sometimes I will be called, if I had committed on these days already, I would have declined. Since I haven't committed anywhere, I could immediately have. So that doesn't mean that a male had to be, this particular course I am saying. You can look for another woman. So that doesn't take place. That is why the entire course, the participants came, because I belong to that women's studies, so they made a representation. So this is very important. Not only the university level, I mean everything. Inviting the people, the committees, nominations, and the provisions of the facilities, and the syllabus also that I will be talking. The next is skills in gender analysis and framework. Yeah, this is very much missing. We talk about gender analysis, gender auditing, etc. So when the Women's Studies department is located, here also you have in Muslim University, Center for Women's Studies. So it is their duty also to go and conduct gender audit. We did for Bharathidasan University, and we also were, there is a provision, if you also can tell yourself can join or tell your teachers also, the Women and Child Development Ministry offers the training on gender auditing and gender budgeting also. So those, we also apply and get funds and offer gender audit training, gender budget training to the government staff also, drawing from different sectors. So that is what there is a need to. Then review of curricula from gender perspectives across social sciences disciplines. So we have here itself a group of different disciplines represented under social sciences. So apart from that, there may be other disciplines also. So you have to see, go through having got trained on building gender perspective, incorporating gender into your own curricula, you have to totally analyze, place you can invite gender experts. Gender experts from their own field, that will be fine, because we also conducted several workshops to integrate gender into the curriculum of social sciences. And so I maybe because I belong to economics, I will be comfortable in incorporating gender, taking the theories, how gender blind and how gender neutral the theories were, and they were all taking, even when you call labor, and because there are 4 factors of production, economic students will be knowing, land, labor, capital, and organization or entrepreneurship, that everything was focusing on male only. It is nothing, nothing was talking about women's laborers. I'll be talking about the Nobel laureate Gladia Gladys Goldwyn's this thing. There I will try to, if time permits. So you have to make every discipline. Political science means political science experts will be more aware of what are the different papers, different courses, and how gender will be. So the political science person must be a gender sensitive person also. So they have to incorporate. Similarly, public administration or economics or commerce or management or history, whatever. And so we have succeeded in bringing in certain areas. And in fact, I used to be, because of the kind of you are there in the university system, you have affiliated colleges. So I used to go for academic council meetings of various colleges. In one of the academic council meetings in a government college, it was decided to take out one paper on women. In fact, in English, that was on women's writings. They wanted to take out that. So I said, see, people with all sensitivity would have incorporated this paper, and how, I mean, why you are taking that out? Don't. In fact, you have to incorporate more papers. And I also advocated that it is not a question of incorporating one paper and claim that it is gender sensitive. No. You have to see every course has a gender perspective. I think NAC is clearly informing that. There are 5 components. I also go for these NAC visits, so we will try to see. But many of the institutions, this is missing. It is for namesake, it will be there. It is saying gender. Gender is the first of the 5 components. Gender, ethics, professional ethics, it talks environment, sustainability, human rights. These are the 4 components based on which each course should be. Each course, I am not talking about the entire paper, whatever your PG or UG or Ph.D. programs. So, I don't know, you have to go a long way to incorporate gender in each course with all these 5 components. But unfortunately, you will assess, and people also will present boldly that they have incorporated gender, human rights, everything. And engendering teaching and learning environment in the entire university. Yeah, many a time, sometimes it would be a gender sensitization course. People will come and talk insensitively. Insensitive means gender insensitive. With all, they will be reiterating the stereotypes. You are supposed to go away from the stereotypes. So that is what you have to be very careful in teaching and learning process also. It has to be incorporated. And creating benchmarks, monitoring and evaluation possibility in the university gender policy. So finally it is monitoring. There only the role of gender audit and gender budget, gender budget will also come. But ultimately you have to take gender analysis and also gender policy. It is also underlined, I don't know about Mizoram University, there are a number of universities which have gone for gender policy, like the other policies, any other policies you have, environment policy and other things, you also have to have gender policy. And this is also the ICC, Internal Compliance Committee to prevent sexual harassment at workplaces should be a mandate. You have to have an anti-ragging committee. And in the induction program itself, these things will be explained to them. Next. So this is what you have to, and you can apply this to the research also. I'm talking about discipline. Yeah. So what is the innovation, which is what this entire session is about to discuss. So women and gender studies and social science research, incorporating women's studies perspective or gender studies perspective in social science research, how it contributes. So it covers a wide range of areas. Like yesterday I was talking about, it is no longer women's studies. We call it as women's bar gender studies. And for some time it was told, even we had this program, women managers in capacity, there's a UGC program on women capacity building program for women managers in higher education, was only confined to women. So people were demanding, why not you incorporate men or include men also. Then UGC said that no, women leadership is very, very minimum. So up to certain point, because I was also part of that program, used to be going around the country to offer this training. And I think yesterday afternoon, a resource person was also trained on that. So it was like till certain point of time, because it is completely a participatory training where people will share their experiences. So when men and women are present, it is difficult for them to share openly, and let the training go little for a long time, and now it is collapsed. It is incorporated to MMFTC. Maybe you will have it to gender sensitization program. So that is what it is: gender, sexuality, feminism, men, masculine, LGBTQIA, intersectionality. So all these themes are included in women and gender studies, and engage with heterogeneity, inequities, inequalities, and forms of oppression. It is claiming that in each category, if you say women are not homogeneous. If you take men are not homogeneous. If you take the other LGBT community, it is all, they belong to different communities, different class, different regions. The rural and urban counterparts, they are not placed on the same. As an urban elite, I have been privileged. I have been enjoying the development dividend better than the rural, because I have everything. If I go out, there is a road. If I go out, there is a bus. Simple I am saying. In rural areas, how many of them, next door they have the road, next door they have transport. Yeah, I am from a village, I don't even have till now the particular village taking transport. Some 2 kilometers you have to walk down to reach your home. So this is what the heterogeneity. So entire studies will be talking about, it's no longer monolithic nor homogeneous. Then encourages original research, theoretical analysis, and critical and constructive debates. Women's studies, gender studies, by the content is critical. You have to accept it. And that also brings a lot of issues to women's studies existence in the university system. They are not for giving sanctions to women's studies centers. Encompasses theoretical, empirical, policy making, and activism. So it is not just theoretical, it is theory versus practice, or academia versus activism. Emphasis on interdisciplinary, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whatever, yes, so many discipline representation is here. So everyone will incorporate gender, and therefore it is in the beginning, women's studies was conceived in the Indian context and West also to incorporate gender perspective in each discipline, irrespective of whether it's social science, engineering, maths, or science, whatever it may be. But originally started with social science, now it is expanding to science also. And that is why it is next, interdisciplinary. So what is the innovation? So there are a number of new concepts. Till 80s we didn't talk about gender. So gender as such as a concept was introduced in in social sciences, theories, gender theories. Now you have theories, queer theory also, that I will explain. Knowledge and analysis, policy solution. So accommodating heterogeneity on the one hand, making us to understand the issues of the different social groups in the different context, and accordingly, because unless and otherwise you discuss the issues of a particular section, you can't go for the policy. So for policy making, very much required is the representation. So when you completely ignore a particular section, for example, the housekeeping, it is mostly women. Women only do homemakers. So there is no policy at all. Recently, Tamil Nadu government has introduced ₹1,000 for the women who are not who are in unpaid care work. Because unpaid care work largely is unaccounted. Yesterday I was talking about how this recent increase in the work participation rate also is because of the accounting for the unpaid labor. So unpaid labor can also be two things. One is that it has value. Value in the sense, if you can convert into monetary value. Like I was talking about the rural context, agriculture, animal husbandry, labor. In the urban context, the women will be sitting and making a lot of value additions to our kitchen. If you go and get that masala powder from shop, it will be costly. If you make that at home, it will be less. So the difference would be around 1,000 rupees per month. Who is paying for that? I am just saying, the child care. If you hire a person and employ a person for child care or home care, whatever, if everything the woman sitting at our own mothers would be doing, no. Many a time they won't hire. who is making compensation for that, and that is what the Tamil Nadu government, Goa government and Delhi also I think they are implementing. So provoke the rethinking at both the core and margins. So having introduced the gender perspective, you started realizing in every discipline that there has been a huge lag, huge gap where it was not understood. The theories and the concepts, the knowledge building did not recognize the issues of the women, the issues of the marginalized. It was a core mainstream thinking. So all these were incorporated after introducing gender. Develop methods of sex and gender analysis for basic and applied research. So it was made to thoroughly understand the difference between sex and gender. Sex is something biological and gender is something sociological. You don't mix that. Very often, okay, women are giving birth to child, so let them take care of the social reproduction also. Social reproduction is all the activities you deliver at household to make others regain the energy. That is that has a value. It can be divided equally by men and women. But just because you are a biological reproducer, procreator, you have also always been given the responsibility right from child care to elder care to take all the household activities. We disputed that it is possible so that more women, more time will be available for women or men. If men engage themselves with the total household work and women go out for work also, same theory. I don't say only for women. Development, gender experiences and contributions and gender specific needs discussed. Yeah, this earlier it was not. Now experiences of everyone was asked and theory built. Studies evidenced, several studies, all these whatever down here, it's all based on some studies. A high proportion of women on scientific teams contributes to successful team collaboration. So this is the difference that the studies conducted in the field found that team collaboration has been quite more. I don't say that it is not prevalent with men. It was more among the women. Women have greater social sensitivity and promote turn taking. Whenever there is work, you be inclusive, democratic, get the views of everyone, and also give the work like today you will be doing, tomorrow you will be doing, tomorrow you will be doing, that kind of a thing. This is all evidenced by studies, research studies. Women are more likely to collaborate and more democratic. So always they go with people, let us jointly do that kind of. Fundamentally change team functioning through the way they interact. So the team will be created and the team functioning will also be defined. Act and interact throughout the research with the specific process, the scientific process. So they always, it is not that I have given this model, you carry on. They will always be there to monitor. Next. So gender and marginalized questions also. I was talking about the whole lot of the underprivileged, the LGBTQIA, rural, etc. So women and marginalized are dramatically underrepresented in senior positions of academia. So this was also a gender-based study which found that this recently I was talking, it is ongoing study on gender and STEM, where I found the premier institutions of institutes of national importance like IIT and NIT, NISER, etc. The representation of marginalized has been very. It was witnessed in this study, current study. I'm talking about 2025. Fellowship and scholarships enable women to join research. You would have witnessed because you have now. So, unfortunately, some of the scholarships have been banned. Stopped. And many schools, Maulana Sir, so Rajiv Gandhi fellowships, people came and utilized that, and they continued pursuit. Even with me, fortunately, almost after 17 scholars or 18 scholars now completed their Ph.D. At least 16 were drawn from these marginalized communities or minorities. That way, it is a contribution. Locating yourself there in a rural university, it is possible to make these schemes reach those students. Power relations and the power differentials intersect. So that is very obvious. I also happen to be in various committees of the ICC in other universities and institutions, and also my own university as a chairperson. So where the people used to come out with issues, where it is the supervisor come PhD candidate. Many cases, came to hear this ICC, happened to be, so that it is not gender or sex issue alone, but the power relations. I am your boss and you have to oblige. So whether you decide, sorry to say that it had happened, that is why I say, whether you want degree or this one. So you have to accept that. Understanding the socio-political and economic world without full involvement of women in the marginal sector is not scientific. So when you claim that it is scientific research, you have to be inclusive, you have to be drawing the experiences of all the possible sections who are part of it. Maybe you call them as stakeholders. Implementation of diversity and gender equality initiatives and the process to be integrated. So the above, it's a corollary of the other. Like it is the world of the world itself, or India itself is a world of diversity, and you have to accommodate. Genuine research excellence requires an equity component in a critical perspective. That is what we have been doing in gender studies, women's studies, or any critical studies for that matter. But unfortunately, in the current context, you can't talk about equity, you can't talk about diversity, you can't talk about criticality, critical question, critical perspective. Next. You have to be very conscious of, in everything you have to be conscious of, like, oh, what will be the impact if I do this? What will be the consequence I will face if I do this? This is what the kind of a situation now we have to, being people, youngsters, you have to change the situation. And basically, this gender is governed by the culture. So the culture also is of like individual, sub and culture. So culture basically defines the social norms. So very often we are bound by the defined social norms. We fear, we are scared to deviate from the defined norms. If we deviate, then you will be labeled as something, and you will be expelled from, sometimes expelled from the community, etc. And therefore you have to abide by the social norms. In fact, in Tamil Nadu, there is a community where if you go for intercaste marriage, you will be expelled from that community, not to go to HT, including our own former finance minister. He got into intercaste marriage, so he was expelled from that community. And they won't go for adoption also from. There is a very good practice of adoption, even before Indian government talked about, but in adoption also will be within that community. They won't go for adoption outside. So this is what one example I am saying, how caste system in the name of culture, social norm, values, etc. And it also, and the culture only you define, sometimes now we have constitution, we have these laws, etc. Mostly 90% will be based on the unwritten laws which we had followed. And here I was talking about the customary laws. Northeast is the customary law which really rule rather than the written laws. Particularly the property right we came to know when we had the workshop there. Then subculture, it is further because you have different system, religion, social class, means the caste society. It is not the economic classification, but the social classification of the caste hierarchy, which is very much prevalent. Special needs, the ability, then sexuality, the transgenderness. And also the individual culture, gender, education, experience, my own gender, my own education, my own experience, etc. So all put together will constitute the culture, and culture and gender are closely related. And culture, many a time, like you will be governed by the cultural system. Next. And that has to be taken care of. So now, having accommodated the gender into different, and also moving forward of recognizing diversity and moving towards equity, etc., we started focusing and we started getting right. Those days we had the mainstream theories, but now we also have new theories emerging in this context of gender, feminism, queer, etc. So feminist theory focuses on power disparity as a result of male domination. So it was in the original binary divisional context, it was male-female. So it was all male who were the dominant force, and the patriarchal system was governed by male, and every rules and regulations were governed, or framed and governed, and therefore they were against, and it is completely disregards the needs of women and doesn't recognize the women's role, etc. Gender theory, of course, stepped forward where it started recognizing the other. It is not that women are not homogeneous, and similarly men are also. Men in the privileged section, whether it is in terms of economic class or social class, they have better privileges than the men also who are there down in the bottom of the hierarchy, whether it is social hierarchy or economic hierarchy. So we cannot say that all the men are dominant. The men in the marginalized communities who equally face issues like the women in the bottom. Maybe women there in the privileged communities will be enjoying better dividend than the men in the bottom hierarchical, whether it is caste or economic class. So it is power disparity as a result of adhering to, rejecting to gender roles. So if you, it emerged out of disputing the gender roles. No longer that the men should only do this or women should only do that. You can say both. Queer theory, of course, it is in recognizing the diversity, the heterosexuality. It is deviating from the heterosexuality. There the power disparity as a result of heterosexism. It is even claimed that heterosexuality is natural and it should only be recognized, but this school of thought, queer theory, disputed all those and provided new learnings. Next. So this is what I explained there in that. Beyond binary, it is no longer masculinity versus femininity. You have non-binary, gendered, queer community also, and the LGBTQIA plus. Now people keep adding to that more also. Next. Based on these theoretical discourses which we have talked about, how to engender disciplines and research, etc. This is about gender analysis. This you can apply to your own individual research as well as to the futures you become researchers, or even in the university system or in the research institute, you will be taking large research projects where it will be very much applicable. So gender analysis and gender audit are the two important concepts in the context of gender. Gender budgeting is also there. Now you have been informed that Government of India implemented gender budgeting since 2005. It is 20 years now, and recently it has increased to 8.87% of the total budget. It is, though in the GDP it is 1%, but it is 8.87%. That is a jump. But how it is, I am not going into detail, but I simply say that there are three divisions in the gender budget, part A, part B, part C. Part A is about 100% going to women, part B 30%, and part C is both. It will be common, like this road is meant for both men and women. So that also will be coming under. But the question is, for example, there is one scheme called Prime Minister Awas Yojana, where the housing registration could be done both in men's and women's name or in women's name. But the house is used by all the members of the family, but that is brought under 100% support under gender budgeting. It is not actually, just because you register in her name. And similarly, maternal health, maternal benefits, etc. Maternal, when you are pregnant, it will go to the benefits. It's not just for the women, whatever money you are giving. So those things, that is the flaw, but in still the perspective to understand gender budgeting is really in question there in the Indian context. We are critiquing, and it is being taken. Some of them have been incorporated, and of course I was telling it is again should not be focusing on welfare orientation, but rather recognizing your agency, being and bringing women into or the other marginalized community to be part of the development process. That is what it has. So gender analysis is a crucial examination of how differences in gender roles. So right from when you are analyzing all these to be, right from gender roles, activities, needs, opportunities. So in a particular family, if you have men and women, so what is the role given to a boy? What is the role given to a girl? And what is the what are the activities expected from the boy, and what are the activities from the boy? Whether you are allowed to go out and come back anytime, whether the boy is encouraged or it doesn't make, if it is not made as an issue at all if he comes back late, or it is for the girls that is being made as an issue. And needs, what are the needs? It is definitely girls and boys will have, because of the kind of a division you had already made. You made girls to be docile and boys to be outside. Women can also go and play like boys given the opportunity. But after some time, particularly in the Tamil Nadu context, the girls, once they attain puberty or menarche, it is a lot of restrictions. As if people were waiting for that to happen. Previous days you would have been playing with the boys. The next day, the moment you got this, then you will be restricted, your mobility will be restricted, everything. Of course, they are going out and learning, I mean, going for school, colleges, etc., etc. But it will be watched, you will be monitored, that is what. You will be strictly monitored to maintain the gender roles defined. It is not deviating from such defined roles. Then opportunities. What opportunities? Are you encouraged to go to private school or public school? Are you encouraged to arts and science colleges or professional colleges? All these will be, you have to analyze when you do gender analysis. And then rights, entitlements, like I was talking about property right. People justify saying that so much has been spent on your marriage. So much has been given as dowry. Who wants that? Nowadays, the girls also equally, this is by the way, it is not the entire population, but in the privileged communities, girls make the marriages, particularly South, I don't know about North. So much is being spent on marriages. So lavish there. And they choose one makeup artist, to the decorators of the hall, choosing the hall itself, food, variety of food. I don't know, that is very, very expensive. So it is true to some extent that the marriages involve a lot of expenses, but you try to cut down and give that money as a property, equal property to the girls, so that they will have more say over the family there, because the girls unfortunately get married off and leave the family, and therefore there if you have something in your name, you will be respected better, and even the violence that is happening will be reduced with the domestic violence or any other dowry violence. And therefore, that is entitlement affect men, women, girls and boys in certain situation or context. So, all these to be analyzed, it may be applicable to other context also, the professional context also. When you take the university system, this is what. So, this is a university, how many boys and girls are studying, how many female and male teachers are there, and the actual constitution says that it is equal. So if there are 50 male teachers, 50 female teachers should be there, 50%. And if it is not there, the university should take initiatives to integrate more or bring more female teachers. But in the interview itself, the notion of the interview committee will be like when both male and female come and they feel that, okay, for this position, male will be better. That is what the perception goes. So all these because of the lack of gender sensitivity, and it is happening in the situation or the context where women are equally contributing to whatever the male counterparts or male colleagues are doing. They have in this study also, it was in the STEM, gender and STEM study, it was informed that they do have child care break, pregnancy, child care, all these break, no? A minimum 2 to 3 years will be there. And but you have to cope up. My male colleague will be, I will be sharing this with the diagram also very beautifully explained by this Nobel laureate. So there will be a linear movement for the men, so there won't be any break. Like the maternal break, I don't say that if there is illness they will take medical leave, all those. I don't dispute on that. But in general, relatively speaking, the child care, which is a social responsibility. People often like that as a personal responsibility. No. The social responsibility of procreation, and they take a break, they don't stay and deliver the duty also, you will be blamed. With leaving the child, she is going to work. Why don't she extend the, why doesn't she extend the leave? That is what. So, those facilities like child care leave or whatever, in this study also informed that there has been some kind of a slack, like male colleagues would have published some 5 papers by these 2 years, or 2 papers, 3 papers. Female colleagues were not able to, because one of the participants was telling, see, as an outsider, that's what I mean, the experiences. And I don't again and again say female, it is equally for men also, because they are still expected to be the breadwinner of the family, and there are pressures to men also. If they don't get work, they won't get married off. All those pressures are also for men. So this one of the participants in the STEM study, she said, see, even though you wishes to contribute you wish to contribute to paper, because you sitting at home also, you can still continue your paper writing, etc. If it is the study which you have already conducted. But still, this childcare also requires a lot of physical labor. It is not that you will be simply sitting and the child will be sleeping. You have to, throughout the day, you have to be with the child. Therefore, hardly any mind to concentrate on writing the paper. So, it will be affected in the promotion. So this is what there will be lag, and the promotion will be a slot, and you will be lagging behind. I think people are able to manage despite these kind of differences. Okay, so gender analysis looks at the relationship between females and males and their access and control resources and constraints they face related to each other, which I have. So what is gender audit is taking stock of everything. And audit, you know, like the income and expenditure, and you will try to see what is the balance, what is the deficit, why the deficit, and how to address the deficit. Same way here also, you have to say the audit gender deficit. If I was talking about it in the university system, if equal representation is not there, you have to see that in future. And I'm not only talking gender audit here, I include the marginalized also. So there is a reservation for particular sections of the marginalized community. So if that is also not particularly SC/ST, that is not represented, you have to see that in the next. That is why now government grant itself, because I am also from the institution where the divide the grant and give. This is for the general, and for SC this SCT. So you have to spend those allocated grants under SC/ST to SC/ST alone. And if it is not spent, it will be returned. So these kind of initiatives are there, and therefore that is one form that the balancing is done. So gender audit is a type of a social audit similar to financial audit that examines on organization activities from a gender perspective. Okay, quickly run through the next because some more I have to talk. 5 steps to conduct a gender analysis. So this will be, you can customize this to your requirement, whatever area in which you are going to study. It can be part of your own current study. Now you are conducting some study for your own PhD. There also you can apply. So mapping gender roles and relations in a specific context, which I have already told, there in the household context. Similarly, in the industrial context, in the labor market context, in the education institution context also. Moving from inequalities to assessing gender-based constraints. For example, gender role relations in a specific context means here how many male-female teachers are there, how many are there in the decision-making bodies. That is very important. And if some of the committees, they don't have the women's representation, and now slowly we are moving towards transgender inclusion also. So if that is not, even in the students' committees, if the students, male, female, transgender communities are there, it has to. Then moving from inequalities to assessing gender-based constraints. So gender-based constraint is very much, sometimes it is systemic. You have been trained so you don't come forward. So people will say, I told no for this academic staff college, teachers were invited, they declined. So it is taken as a structural constraint. Say it may be prevalent for the men also, but you are making that as an issue for women. So here also gender-based constraints would be there for the girls or the female teacher to be part of it, and you have to explain that it is necessary. Assessing the consequences of gender-based constraints. So for example, if I'm really refraining from, for example, I can quote my own example in the university. There was a committee for admission committee or something happening in the heads meeting. The Vice Chancellor was, registrar were pointing to male only. That's what the reference I told. Then I raised my hand saying that, see, please bring some women representatives also. And there were many women heads also. It is not that women heads are not there. So then immediately they pointed to me, okay, let Manimekalai be. Then it was embarrassing for me. It is not that I have asked me to be the part of that committee. Then, no, I said, no, it is not fair. I have been pointing to the members, women members to be in part, not Manimekalai to be. As if it is, I am asking for that, for me. Then I looked at my back, my colleague was sitting. And I have just sign language because it was quite distant. I asked, you be there. She was, no. So this is what. So the gender-based constraints, I have to go and discuss with her. What is the problem with you? Why you are saying? So that is what I mean. Gender-based consequences of gender-based constraints. In taking action, remove gender-based constraints. So then capacity building very much worked. Many of the participants whom we have offered capacity building are now registrar, controllers, vice chancellors, etc., directors, etc., deans. So we have to, that is what, some kind of a patch up to be done. Measuring the success of successful actions through monitoring and evaluation. So ultimately you have to see, otherwise it is, unless you monitor and evaluate, then the results may not be known. Next. This is a process, of course, when you apply, you will be able to understand in the context, whether it is curriculum development or in the what you call your research project, whatever. So assess the potential, identify the indicators, collect data, analyze for data points, connect findings with the resolutions. So assess the potential in the sense when there is gap, gender gap, so that has to be addressed, and you proceed how to fill this gender gap. Next. Yeah, so what are the, yesterday we discussed through informal way, but I am giving now in a structured format, research methods and gender research, what innovations are there. Already we have been talking about the methods, but still here it will be kind of giving. Research on gender is more commonly associated with both qualitative rather than quantitative. I was talking about right from the, whatever the topics I have been suggesting, it is all, it cannot escape using qualitative methods. That's what, or it cannot afford to lose qualitative methods. So qualitative methods, it may be simply conducting focus group discussions, you can arrive at a study. That is what I mean to say. Or oral histories. I was told by the Center for Women's Studies director yesterday, in this region, Northeast, it is the oral histories is recent origin and 100 years or so. Unlike South, it is 2000 years or taking from Tamil Nadu or Kerala, I can say. So oral histories are part of the researches now, so that is what. So critique quantitative methods involving, why it criticized the quantitative methods, because involving the translation of individuals' experiences is very, very important, highlighted in red. Translation of individuals' experience, like my experience, into categories predefined by researchers. You define set of this thing and you go and ask questions and you try to accommodate. No, you leave it open, draw the experiences from the participants, whoever, whether it is men, women, girls, boys, transgender, whatever. But what we say in other general research category, we have set of questions. Irrespective of taking their experiences, we ask either it is in the open-ended or closed-ended. In the open-ended, some scope will be there, and how you interpret the open-ended experiences again, people are going for quantification of that also. So that is what this, you cannot, you don't have the right to categorize the their responses predefined, and that will distort women's experiences. You use gender experiences, it is not just women alone. Gender experience and result in a silencing of gender own voices of the different gender. Okay, so as a transgender, I experience something which I share, and you have to accommodate there. And if there are no questions, you try to bring more questions to accommodate the experiences of the transgender. Or as a disabled person with disability, I have my own experiences. I was talking about yesterday. I can quote one case where there is one girl called Amuda. This is very interesting, please understand. You can also intervene all these. So when we were visiting the neighborhood villages, she is orthopedically handicapped, both ligaments, she can't move. So every day the people, it's a very poor family, parents will go to work and she will be there. She cannot move and take things from the platforms. So she should be served and go, no? Whatever is to be the lunch or whatever, they don't. And it is at least till she attained her menstrual cycle, okay. After that, she should be attended proper, no? She has to be given all the requirements, etc. People don't care about, this is the reality I'm talking, because we witnessed and interviewed. And she simply managed everything. And it was unwanted child for that family, because you are not caring at all. It's okay, she is there, let her, that is what the thing. Then what happened, when we visited, she shared all these experiences. This is what you can call either here we are talking about the, oral history or their own experience sharing. So then we really felt, oh, this is what, she's already suffering with her own disability and it is further adding to that. So what happened, no, this one professor only first, because he used to stay there in the campus and she took me there and we understood, okay, so what we said was, would you like to come to the university and take care of. By then I think she was around 18 plus when I met her. Before that the story she shared. So what happened, there was a stores for the university. So I asked the university to support her to employ there in the store. So it was done. But after some time, the store was closed. So then what happened? Hostel, no? In the hostel in the evening, the students will come. So I have requested the university to permit her to sell the snacks. She can buy some bakeries. She can sell here with some commission. Commission in the sense, maybe 50 rupees means 60 rupees or 5 rupees means 10 rupees, something like that. So that was really helping, but one time the registrar felt that, madam, this is coming from outside, if anything happens to the students, we were responsible, answerable, we won't take. So then that was closed. Then she was really suffering and what I did was I wrote to this office of the disabled persons there in government of Tamil Nadu, and so they provided the three-wheeler and now she is running the scooter. A wheelchair, now three-wheeler attached scooter. So later there was an initiative which is also, I thought I find time I can share all these action results. I conducted a study with HRD funding where the self-help group products marketing was very, very difficult. So what I did was I asked the Rural Development Department to construct a retail outlet for which I asked university to give space, and they have constructed and given very large 3 retail outlets where university only gave one space. So there I have brought her. Amuda was brought here and all the products were brought by the self-help group and she could survive better. Later on, self-help group members also were not interested and I have asked the university to convert that into stationery, and she is running a stationery with Xerox facilities and all the eatables and other things. So whenever you go, there will be 10 to 15 people will be. I mean, it is quite crowded. She is married. She has a child also. So very, very prospective. This is one case study I am sharing. But still, you see, imagine her plight there in the early stages. That is the thing. So all the time, a person from university won't be going and helping, and you are in the. Now that family started recognizing. They invited me for the wedding, and every now and then she calls me on March 8th. And I have also seen this year, year before last year, I went to that village and I asked her to create a self-help group among the disabled population because she should understand, no? So she created immediately. And this year, she informed me and she asked me to share my photograph. I have shared. And she shared a banner there, my photograph was in the top, and the self-help group women were, I was astonished. Oh, what is this? I didn't share my photo for this. No, ma'am, you are the inspiration, you are the model, so all these women should be, we have created already self-help group, I didn't inform, so I want to really show, we will invite you when you are here to Trichy, that is what. So there are several such things happened in Bharathidasan University, I go on, but I am giving one. So the flexibility is useful for the study of gender as many as social phenomenon. The gender relations cannot be easily quantified by numerical statistics. That is what. So we are talking about women's experiences. For example, this woman is doubly disadvantaged and triply disadvantaged. A woman, a disabled, a rural, and deserted, completely deserted just because of her ability. And now she is really. Only unfortunate thing I should underline, she married to a second marriage to her sister's husband, because now people coming and marrying her, because any outsider will be like kind of, I don't know what is the perspective, but she married too and she also has a child. That is the only thing I could not accept, but they felt that okay, the same means they will take care of her better rather than going to another person, or he may exploit her earnings, all those things. that anyway, it is now good. Next. The understanding about different ways of collecting data about women's lives, including the emphasis on the collection of gender disaggregated data. I already told in the beginning itself that when we are collecting data, for example, labor, so many labors are, if you say simply that labor participation is so much, we may not get what is the women's participation. When you are giving the disaggregate data, there in the DLF survey I was talking about yesterday, now you come to know, oh, there are only 31% or 41%. Earlier it was 23%. Feminist researchers argue that, so there are a number of areas using gender analysis to get the gender disaggregated data, which will in a way help gender here and in a broader context I'm saying. So how many are there? Even in the sanitation work, we found 3 transgender are working. Normally it is not, but in that particular sensitive, gender sensitive NGO, so they have brought them 3 transgender also. So it was good, like women workers are there, transgender workers are there. Gender disaggregated research is useful for the gender serious analysis. Next. Yeah, mixed method. This is the normal, most we are using in all the social sciences, combination of quantitative and qualitative methods. And qualitative methods, there are many different methods in the qualitative category also. I'll just at least list them. So gender research is both qualitative and quantitative and incorporate gender perspective. It has to incorporate gender perspective. And the gender relation between men and women are complex, multidimensional, and therefore it advocates for diversity of tools and rights. So even within the men research or women alone research or transgender alone research, there are diverse community, social groups, and therefore the tools used also will be different. I have conducted a study, it's a statewide study on sanitation. It is called WASH, Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, where I have analyzed the gender environmental concerns, the WASH in urban and peri-urban areas, gender and environmental concerns. So wherein you have come across many, there is one population, we have complete transgender colony also in particular place, Perambalur, and also you have nomads, gypsy community. They have a Narikuravar in Tamil they say. So they also had colonies, and when you assess the sanitation needs, it is not that much. So thanks to the government that they have constructed and given the colony, but the sanitation facilities are not up to the mark. And transgender community also felt that they are, everyone they are together, the community. There are around 20 houses in which each one, it is also again, they also live like family, both 2 male will or 3 males will stay together in one single room. So that is what that particular, but the bathroom constructed and given is very narrow. There is hardly any space for this bathing and using it as a washroom. So I don't know, space is not a constraint because it is an open space. They should have created a very larger this thing. So in the sanitation also, it is like, again I am going for girls, women, you have specific needs. So that has to be accommodated. Then consider as a gender throughout the research process. I have been telling right from the beginning of thinking or conception of your research idea till you interpret the result, present your report, you have to have. Recognize that gender doesn't equal woman, but identifies. I have been telling that for a long. So whenever you use gender, it is not woman. And it acknowledges, this gender research acknowledges that women are not single monolithic group. So that is what the privileged versus underprivileged or deprived communities, and you have so-called women in rural areas, in tribal areas. So their needs would be different, their perspectives will also be different, and sometimes it will be, my students also go as interns to tribal, NGOs working with tribal community, and they used to say there are certain superstitious beliefs. So don't say that as superstitious beliefs, it is their beliefs. You have to see in their perspective. You can't simply as an outsider critique that. And we came to know that living together was there in our state, I'm saying. There is one, again I'm talking about the same district, Krishnagiri district, where my students were hired as interns. So they came to understand that this practice was still has been prevailing, where men and women who are interested, they can live together. There is no kind of a ritual of marrying. They can live together and they can lead a life. In case if they are not interested, they can come back, depart. And if there is a child in between in this life, that child will be taken care of the community. So we are talking about living together, and there is a very huge issue, etc. now in the other context. But this is very much inherent there in the particular system. So this was news for me. And so that is what you have to understand. So you can answer, oh, these tribal communities, they had living together experiences, that is why. That was part of that life. Why you, as an outsider, you be objective, you don't need to be. But at the same time, wherever it is part of neither, you have to be critiquing. So defines and composes target groups, survey samples, etc. to take account of the broadest and most diverse sample. Okay. Then emphasis on participation for all. That is very important. So it is not that your researcher, one who is researched, they have to equally be footed first. There should not be any hierarchy. We are talking about social science, rapport building. So try to understand their background and then keep them as equal as possible, or even up to get the data, which is very much important. So all actors, all stakeholders are required, and you can't afford to lose any one in this group. Next. Yeah, these are the methods used, the qualitative. You must be, because you are from social science research, and I am talking in the gender studies context, but social science also part of gender studies also part of social science. So use observation, participant observation, participatory appraisal. I have employed this for the past 30 years. Even when I was in economics also, because I used to work on gender in those contexts also. So these methods were very, very interesting methods, because when you go participant observation, I was working in a Madras Institute of Development Studies long back, immediately after my Ph.D. in 1991, where I lived in one village for 1.5 years. So that is the kind of a research, agriculture transformation after, I think it was a resurvey, village survey. So we stayed, and that is what it is called, observation and participant observation. You live with them, you understand their lives, and everyday life, how, and I come to know all these divisions only when I stayed there. That streets themselves will be dividing you. So when you refer that street, oh, that's those people. That is what these upper caste people will refer. And when we go there, in fact, one set of my students were doing, you know that CSTS will be, Lokniti in Delhi will be conducting pre-election polls, no? So our students will also be hired and doing that. So when they went to that so-called, whatever they call it is, in Tamil, Kilathiru means bottom and Mela means top. So upper or lower, that's kind of. So when they went to this Dalit community colony and came back here, the people were literally asking, "Oh, you had gone there, then we can't make you enter here. You have to sit here only. And there is a country cart, no, that rope cart." So they were made to sit there and collected the data, offered the data. And from the same survey, we also came to know that there is a very worst example. There is a division in the Balwadi, that ICDA center for Dalit and non-Dalit. See, they have a classroom, and they have divided, and this room, all the Dalit children, all the non-Dalit here. And when it was asked, and it was immediately reported to the district collector, because it should be, no. Otherwise, among the Balwadi means very small kids, no, even there you try to maintain this division. So we immediately reported, and it was taken care of. But it was not from the district administration, by the community there. And it was justified, saying that by the employees of ICDS, no, if you don't divide, the upper caste children are being not accommodated. And there is a threat that if you don't have sufficient children, this ICDS will be closed, and you will be losing their employment. All these, how it is connected, see. This is what the caste system plays in the rural context. So it is all through observation. We go and conduct an interview, no one will say. And similarly, I have conducted a study on hunger-free area program. Those days in 97, I think, in a village, it was a 7-district study. I was given one district. So there was a clear difference between the so-called community division hierarchically. So the children there in the Dalit communities or tribal communities, they are able to take the noon meal provided, whereas the OBC community, they are not taking. And because they were landowners, because of the continuous drought, they are not able to cultivate, and therefore they don't want to. They want to maintain their dignity. They don't want to. That is what it was told. I am not saying. So these things were emerged. So when you go and ask simply in the interview schedule, it won't come. When you sit with them, conduct social mapping, we conducted participatory rural appraisal, we came to understand that this is what the practice is. So they won't come here, they won't interact with them, and most of these they are landless. The people who are from the Dalit communities or tribal communities, the others are with land, all those things emerged. And how they treat, whether it is ICDS or in the school system. And you also have surveys, and now it is ethnographic survey also is very common in most of the researches, anthropology and other such studies. In other disciplines also, whichever is to be historically to be seen or it to be understood in a community perspective, all these will be conducting the ethnographic surveys. And participatory learning methods, where I was talking about. In fact, in a very interesting experience, in the Sangarferia program, we were sitting there and we conducted survey first, and we did the social mapping involving all the people, because that is the participatory learning method. And it was night 2 o'clock. Till then we were there in the village. We had to go to, I mean, it was like 40 kilometers from my place. So we had to return, but unfortunately it was continuing, people were involved, so how can I leave in between? And end of the day, at around 1:32, it was about to be closed, and all things could be brought under social mapping and their perspectives, etc., etc. And this vice president, earlier vice president of that community came, the village came. What is this? These are in those village records we call Adangal. Everything will be available there in Adangal. Why you want to ask all these? He just poured the water. So much, 3 hours, 4 hours work all got spoiled. So this kind of thing, we were drunkard and we were all in the night. People are there, but still it is quite risky for us also to not to object him. But really but at least we could get the sense of it. So that's what I mean, this kind of difference, these issues will be there in conducting participatory appraisal also. Then interviews, where we have key informants interview, general interviews, key informants interview, in-depth interviews, that all should go as supplementing, like in the sanitation study, or earlier also I did a study with the IHS, Indian Institute of Human Settlement, support the sanitation, access and availability of sanitation facilities for women at workplaces, taking the construction worker, domestic worker, street vendors, retail sector worker, etc. Where we found that construction workers really, we are seeing this construction is going on, women are working, but they lack toilets. They don't have. In the morning, in Trichy context I am saying, they come from around 100 kilometers away, daily traveling up and down 200 kilometers, some of them. But at the end of the day, there is no toilet at workplaces. And you think of their menstrual cycle periods if it is not. So they used to take leave. So particularly the construction workers were very much facing those issues. So all these could come, and when we had discussion, in-depth interviews or focus group discussions. And also focus groups, experiments and case studies. So whenever you feel that this particular case study is to be given as a model to others, or is very vulnerable, it has to be exposed to. I can take Amudas as a case study. Similarly, in the construction sector, some of the women, they said they felt very bad, like they can't, in the construction sector, even people will recognize. In Tamil Nadu context, I don't know about other areas, you will easily make out that this girl is menstruating, because they have to wash your hands and you won't touch. You are not supposed to touch all the vessels otherwise used by. So in that way they will be able to understand, okay, today she is. And what happens, no, she will be taking leave for 3 days or 5 days. And domestic work, I came to understand, particularly in certain households, they asked to take leave. They are not allowed during these days to come and work, because you have to enter into the house and you are not puja room and all, you are not supposed to. So all these made them to kind of excluded. On the one hand, loss, human days loss, loss of income, etc. So when we discussed all these, we were telling that facilities should be there, but at the same time they have to be accommodated there during the period's time also. Then experiments, so in that we have brought some case studies. Then oral history, life histories, mostly in the when you conduct in the history or in other women feminist and women studies also, someone who have contributed to this community, contributed right from freedom struggle to now. So you can definitely bring their histories, oral histories, testimonies, etc. Where you can use a lot of diaries, autobiographies. So which is the source of our data. So it is not like every time you will have face-to-face questionnaire or interview schedule alone. You can also use these reports, diaries, even letters, correspondence. There you will understand the perspective. In particular context, what is this particular person communicated to the state or some whoever, government. So mixed methods, all these put together, mixed methods. Then apart from that, action research. See, I was talking about action research. One was that this MHRD related project where I have implemented this self-help group product market. So they now go to colleges. Every 2 days they will go to colleges. I will talk to the college and they will provide. So 30 days they will be employed, leave it on Sundays. And now they themselves are able to do that. This is one action research. They are able to earn around 30,000 to 40,000 these self-help groups. And more so, they are going to college. Because earlier they wouldn't even enter the college. And that has inspired them to make their wards to enter into higher education. So these are the forward linkages. And when I did a study on Women Entrepreneurs Association of Tamil Nadu, Women Entrepreneurs, what I did was, I have created an association called Women Entrepreneurs Association of Tamil Nadu. Now it is functioning there in Tamil Nadu, where whoever is interested, aspiring for entrepreneurship, any person on the road can visit that organization. It is governed by the people. I am just on the advisory role. And they can come and take the inputs, the counseling, etc. for starting an enterprise. And if there is any training, they can come and train. Training also will be in collaboration with various other institutions will be offered, and they will be linked with the government schemes, because otherwise there won't be any awareness. And then credit will be given by the bank and they continue. And in fact, I have made many women entrepreneurs to choose to not to stereotype areas, but to become engineering entrepreneurs, to BHL. There is Bharathidasan Electricals Limited, where they have become engineering fabricating unit. They are running, 48 women are running engineering fabrication. They are not engineers. They are school dropouts. They are just general education people. But thanks to BHL, when we approached from the university, they have helped us to accommodate them. Bank guarantee was lower. Bank was comfortable to give the kind of support. And we have also introduced them to auto driving, car driving, lorry driving. I can say one example here, case study. There is one girl from this one village near, it's a little village. She came once and she wanted to have a van, school van run on her own. So I gave a letter. So the school agreed, and she was about to get that, but there are some already male run drivers, and therefore they didn't, somehow indirectly they stopped her, so she could not get. Then she asked for an auto loan. I wrote to the Union Bank of India, which is located in that. He immediately agreed to give that auto loan. But she determined by then to become a heavy vehicle driver. So what she did was, she joined, she asked me to support. So I returned to government training that was happening some 80 kilometers away in a place called Namakkal. So she joined and she presented a photo, very large photo, 85 of them, only one tiny girl. She was not very hectic, etc. She is very tiny girl and very puny. She completed that. And when I asked her some couple of times, I called her, because I also invite all these women to talk in the conferences or in the colleges to give inspiration. So then I asked, Madam, I am driving in Tiruchirappalli, there in town, Kerala. Sometimes, and she was in Assam also. So twice I called and now this year I called, Madam, I have gone to Bahrain, I am in foreign service. So good that she runs now this lorry. I mean, she ran lorry earlier, drove, but now she moved to foreign service, meaning abroad. So she is now earning good. So these are all one thing I help that people who were making this to be propaganda there in the newspapers and media, and several awards also reached them. So several such cases to bring women to non-stereotypical areas. This is one of the non-conventional areas, which is one of the objectives on which this which is also working, Women Entrepreneurs Association of Tamil Nadu. Similarly, I worked on this menstrual hygiene management consortium, menstrual hygiene management, and created with the help of UNICEF menstrual hygiene management consortium. So that is also again is a civil society organization where now doctors and NGOs are all part of it, and they are really helping the rural women in creating awareness, rural girls there in colleges and universities, schools. So this is what action research should also be part of our gender studies research, because many a time in other disciplines what we see, I'm also in a core economic student, what we do research, we publish papers, we just go, and the reports will be somewhere, wherever the funding agency or the university library. But we never think of implementing our own findings to action research. So that is what several such examples I have quoted one or two here. So as a teacher in the university system and as a student also, now we are a student, tomorrow you will be also here in this site. So it is in a way conveying that you are quite welcome to implement your own finding wherever it is possible, and in a way you are communicating that it is being validated. When I say that it is possible to introduce women entrepreneurs in non-conventional areas in this project which I have done with the support of UGC, then it is proved. I have created women entrepreneurs in those areas, and one girl is running a men's salon. So running a salon is different, running a beauty clinic is different, but running exclusively a men's salon is also, she is a widow, young widow, because of her loss of her husband, she had to take over that, and she is running. She did face a lot of issues, but I also brought her into the paper in the Hindu and Times of India, the very first page they covered in Trichy, and now she also has been recognized as a leading women entrepreneur there. So this is what you have to combine in this gender research. I don't know what else is available. I should also give some time for discussion. Quickly run through them and I'll open at least 2-3 minutes. Yeah, now it's all rights. No, next. Rights-based approach is also emerging. Now human rights, whatever the other, it's not gender research alone, rights-based research, that is also component. Next. Yeah, this is what triangulation, which I have already told. You will be seeing qualitative and qualitative you are combining, because you are trying to understand whether it is not necessary, because in the hunger-free area program, when I did the individual survey, when you were the respondent, you said you don't have land. But when I had the focus group discussion, people in your neighbor, city neighbor, she has half an acre land. So that is what this is not to kind of, they both come together, there will be deviations also. That is what. Next. Yeah, this is what I want to end. She is the Nobel Prize winner in 23, where she was talking about the women's contribution. I'll just take those pictures and explain. Can you go to the diagrams? So she analyzed 20,000 households for 200 years US data on women's economic participation. See, very beautifully portrayed there, the married women in work. See, they were almost around 55% when they were in agriculture, but it slowly came down with the industrial revolution after 1857. Why? What is the expectation? Oh, industries are there, more and more labor will be there, but unfortunately married women could not go because of the childcare responsibilities. When agriculture is there, I used to be flexible. I'll work here, I'll go to my field, I'll work and take care of my child and then go back, attend my household work and go. This is what. Now it is not. So there is a slowdown. I'm talking about the American context, but it is true in Indian context also. Then after some time it was realized now education has become, for example, after 60s, 70s, there is a realization that education should be compulsory, and there also it was. So it was fallen down to 1910 till 1910, from 1790 or 1820 onwards. This 1910 till those many years, there was a falling economic participation of women since the onset of industrial revolution, and then slowly there is an expansion. Now there is upward sloping, and the three factors have been contributed by this Nobel laureate Gladia. One is education, so expanding education. You are educating, you are getting educated, so you have to go to the labor market, and then changing expectations. So having educated, having qualified, you are not going to work. That kind of a thing will be there, even in the Indian context. So that also. Finally, of course, contraceptive pill. Here, it's a different context, India, but there it is contraceptive pill. You can marry or not marry, but childbirth can be postponed. So that also contributed to that. So the interesting point, next picture, is this, the parenthood effect. This is what I was telling. See, there is a linear curve for the men. Both of them are joining. They are walking down very well. Whether it is the education field, my colleague, me, join, and both of us will be there. So once I marry, get pregnant, childbirth, then my curve started coming down. So that is what it is. I am with the child, I am taking care of the child, etc. So I'll be, after some time, 5 years, I'll be looking up. My colleagues will be there, up, I'll be here. So this is what she beautifully brought out in this theory, parenthood effect. So this is applicable to Indian context also. So any work participation rate therefore has to take into account this deviation, and ultimately you will be able to give policies, and that is why now you have childcare policies, etc., which is already there. But still it is only for formal sector. What about the informal sector? What about the workers there in the informal sector? You are not coming means you are not getting a wage. Final, last slide I will. Yeah, marriage and that is just explained. So marriage and childcare impact female work participation rate. This is one example I am giving. It is true for others also. Okay. With this I will stop, please. If you have any discussion to be made, please. Sorry for taking your time. Yeah. Any questions or supplementing whatever has been discussed? You're quite welcome.
Ma'am, in Tamil Nadu, I don't know about the metro cities, but especially in other districts like Tiruchirappalli, like I have seen that.
You were the citizen minister of Tamil Nadu?
I was there for like 1 month or two. Because I've noticed that in government buses, girls don't have to pay any bus fares. But how did the thing impacted the society?
Very good, very good. In fact, I have conducted that evaluation study. In fact, thanks to Tamil Nadu government, the Tamil Nadu government has many schemes in which the free bus scheme was evaluated by me before joining here. So, particularly taking Nagapattinam, where Tiruvarur is also part of it. So, 4 districts I have conducted. One is Tirupur there, Coimbatore, near Coimbatore, and this Nagapattinam, and then Madurai, and then Krishnagiri. So, where I found that this particularly for students it was free. For long back it was free. Pass can be given it. For the workers it is really helping. In fact, in what way? I am going daily here. Now bus is free. I can shift to some other where wage is higher because bus is free. I need not have to go other 10 rupees or 20 rupees. So the people chose to go to long distance also because of this. That is a very positive thing. And many girls started on the one hand free bus, on the other 1,000 rupees scheme. Particularly most of the rural girls will be in government schools, mostly. And some of them there in the aided school also will be there. But mostly the marginalized communities will also always be. So combined with 1,000 rupees and free bus, really contributing to increased participation of women in higher education. But only thing, the peer influence, see there is a Central University of Tamil Nadu which is located in rural area. People should recognize. People from all over the country are found there. But the neighborhood villages are not aware of the existence of that college, university and the courses. There are there will be self-financing colleges, there will be other small colleges, they will fall other because of the peer influence. that peer influence must be positive to choose to. Actually, I'm going next week to that university. 26th.
Ma'am, regarding that,
Yes.
Can I take the chance?
Yeah. Yes.
So, ma'am, looking at the context of Tamil Nadu or other southern or northern states and comparatively to northeast states, what do you think? Even in northeast state, like particularly focusing on Mizoram, Nagaland, Manipur, something like that, looking at those current scenario, what do you think? What can be still be changes taken place in those areas? Because I grew up in a co-education system, and slowly earlier I was not wondering, okay, women empowerment. I used to learn, okay, women empowerment, okay, girls need to be empowered. Then slowly I started to get to realize what is the real needs to empower, especially looking at the current context of this Nagaland, Manipur, and even in Mizoram, if I'm not wrong. So slowly my perspective started to change, and that ignorance.
What made you to change that perspective?
No, because-
you have arrived at a conclusion that women are already empowered, so I may not have to think of empowerment. What is it? I don't get it. What is the change?
Like similar to what you think of it. So like look at comparatively with my friend circle, like around 40 of us, that is divisions of 20 males and 20 women. Looking that with my own friend circle, now women are more educated than male. Then plus women are more like job oriented, and they are more like employed than male. The reason is
So you have to be happy. This structural change happening. So they have, the structural inequalities are. But I also caution here because we are all researchers. Seeing only the circles around you, you cannot come to a conclusion. There are a lot of 80% of the women there in the interior villages, in the jungles, etc. They are still lacking, even not able to continue their schooling, and they are not able to get even the mobility is not proper. I am talking about every tribal community for that matter. And the change Nagaland, this one, Manipur, this Mizoram. In a way, when I don't know about others. It is from outside, as an outsider, always Northeast is quite progressive in terms of women empowerment. That is what we have been seeing. We have been also told so. But when you go and discuss with the people there, inside us, then the picture is different. You know, Nagaland political participation, that Rosemary had to fight, and recently only there are women MPs. Till recent time, there were no women politician at all, women parliamentarian or assembly. Or I don't know about the local governance. So that was the case. So education, thanks to women coming forward, and thanks to also families, I could also see, and there is increasing awareness also coming, and you can see quite a number of, because one of my staff is from Manipur. She is conducting continuously on Northeast women there in Delhi. So there are things changing, but that what the percentage you observe is very, very minimum. Please do not generalize. We are researchers. Researchers should take into account the entire, not this change. And this is not only for Northeast. It is happening for other parts of the country. Simply seeing the surface level changes, people say, oh, now women are everywhere. I don't deny education. It is at least, leave alone North states. In southern states, the gap between men and women, the gender gap in higher education is very, very less. Or it is nil also. In Kerala, it is 50% men, 50% women. But what happens after this? This is, my dear, after this, what is happening to a girl? What is happening to a boy? That is the question. Many of your friends, girls will be studying, but after their higher education, are they getting employed? Are they given all the liberty like a boy to go and get work elsewhere, everywhere? Or there are restrictions? That is one question. And beyond that, the bottom of the thing is, whatever you observe is only a pinch of salt. You have to take it. Not the whole.
I agree with this one.
The next research person is already waiting.
I agree with that.
We can discuss that.
Yeah, okay, you can.
Yeah, we will discuss that because I shouldn't take the time for that.
Let's all give a round of applause for Ma'am Manimekalai.
Thank you so much for poverty on the one hand and also the historical roots of sun preference,